Welcome to George Webb's Research Roadshow. Monday, July 5th, 2021, episode 116. Sorry for the late start, everybody. Fire the producer. We're getting working. We're making it happen, but go Blue, go Corona Roadshow. George, what's shaking? Well, Aaron, I gotta tell you, I'm not going with the blue behind me here. I'm gonna go with Michigan, not with the Michigan, but I'm going University of Texas today. Why? Because we have so many people involved in the University of Texas along with Virginia Benassi. And that's going to be really important here in a minute. You're going to see why. But if you missed last week's shows, Friday and Saturday, hopefully we'll get a 5x5 here from the audience. But anyway, if you missed Virginia Benassi's show, you saw how we're going to have to leave and come back. I don't know why the audio would be bad. Bugs in the roadcaster. Let's leave the studio and come back. Could it be?
No. Any better, anybody? 5x5? Just bugs in the roadcaster, maybe? Bad audio again? Andy, yeah, we need Andy, huh? 5x5 now. I think I just had to turn it off and turn it back on.
Okay. So that...
Yep, here we are. Yep.
All right. So the good news is there's the Michigan allusion to Dr. Jonas Salk. I think they're going to rename the big bowl over there, the Jonas Salk Influenza Bowl, to remind everybody that's where it comes from. We're good for now? I think we're good for now.
Yeah, okay. We're back. It's probably just the roadcaster needed to reboot for some reason.
No worries.
It happens a lot.
So whenever I show the football, this is your visual cue to think, hey, Jonas Salk virus vaccine game, Jonas Salk virus vaccine game, influenza, 1943, going all the way back to the football stadium. And I wanted to say that I have the UT, University of Texas, orange on today because of all these team members that are involved with Virginia Benassi writing this WHO blueprint and doing the different studies for this China virus, this not China coronavirus, but this China blood platelet virus, brand new blood platelet virus. So anyway, I wanted to say that this book, we're going to start selling this book again now that we've printed a whole bunch of copies. Switzerland, we had a lot of international orders, and we can't fulfill those orders because we have more sales. The money we collected for the book doesn't cover the shipping. But what we decided was, if you want to have a printer and a binding machine in Switzerland, in Geneva, where we got all these orders, you can print the Coronavirus Roadshow. You can go on to neighborhoodnewsstudio.com now and buy these, right? And we'll send those out to you. And you'll have the signature and everything. So it'll be a signed limited print edition. But these may be very popular in Geneva. Remember, we had Ed Flaherty with the old cash machine from the Congress, from Mr. Schiff, that back channel to Congress, Ed Flaherty. We have, of course, Kolomoisky has a place in Geneva. He may want a couple of copies. Virginia Benassi's team, along with all those UT people, are in Geneva. You may also want to give this out to Gavi and all the Bill Gates people in Geneva. So we can see why there's demand. We're just thinking about a remote, neighborhood news Geneva for printing these things. So if you're in Geneva and we can't get you copies, you can order the ones that were going to Geneva. I think Ed Flaherty actually ordered 5 of these things, but see all the evidence they got. But anyway, just sitting there by the cash machine with Kolomoisky.
Well, I wonder what Klaus Schwab thinks of people printing books for themselves and the Great Reset.
Could be Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab is another person. World Economic Forum. I think that's. I thought that was in a different city. I want to say.
Yeah. It's,
Bern, but it could be Geneva. Klaus Schwab could order the book. So anyway, if you want to be that guy who's printing all the books in Geneva, obviously we seem to have a lot of demand in Geneva.
Well, our international audience, we had to cancel the international orders, and we're sorry, and we are going to just work one-on-one with you to get you the books internationally.
But it could be Virginia Benassi that ordered the books, is what I'm trying to say for everybody at WHO. That's probably what happened. So Virginia, if you'd like to, I mean, we're actually, I think, shedding light on her thrombocytopenia, her novel. Does this sound interesting? A novel new virus that causes a blood-borne illness in China. First time ever in the world in 2009. Does that sound like anything else affecting the world that affects blood and a virus that happens in China? That's a pretty close match.
And a beautiful island with beautiful Shincheonji women, it appears, there at that time, right? Is that?
Well, yeah, but
you ever been to Jeju Island?
Well, I'm not saying Jeju Island yet. I haven't gone to Korea.
We haven't gotten to Jeju yet on that.
Yeah, that was on the first broadcast.
We were I know.
Jeju Island.
We got.
But yes, Shincheonji, the Shincheonji girls have always gone to U.S. ports. We just had a plane crash in Philippines. Remember, we just got done talking about BSL labs and about how Blackwater would have used the BSL labs there before they would ever launch anything in China or launch anything at any U.S. ports in the Western Fleet. Bang! Next day. Plane crash. And Krylova and Bogacheva, if you go back, go to Crystal Clear Truth and look at some of the old videos that I did. Krylova and Bogacheva had a place on the waterfront there in Miami. I don't think it was Sunny Isles, but they had a place they were renting and putting the Oconus Lure girls in. I'm just wondering if that's what's collapsed, because I heard they just collapsed the rest of the building. They just collapsed.
I saw even other buildings, entire other buildings, I believe they took down just as precautionary is what I saw. But
oh, really? Oh, okay. I only saw the one, but anyway.
Okay. I thought it wasn't that many. I thought it was a whole nother
just the
building.
Rest of the first building that didn't fall. Half of the building fell, right? So,
well,
anyway, you relax because everything's fine.
Okay. No, we're
The big news here is Cobb Island back in March, Cobb Island,
YouTube's finest hour.
Basically, I'd used the YouTube logo, sort of saying, hey, this is really what YouTube should be doing. Great journalism like this, where you actually get into it and say, hey, if there is a virus vaccine game going on motivating this coronavirus thing, let's have the evidence. Let's put the evidence out there. Let's have a news gathering event. This is what we did 16 or 17 months ago now. And if you don't remember, Carol from Oregon, a great researcher, we're collecting all the information about these Benassis, right?
Thank you for the support, Carol.
Yeah, thank you very much for the support. And thank you for Fast Eddie in Columbus, and
all the others. Yeah,
thank you to Lady Scripps out in California and everybody else. But Texas and all these great places.
So they were all at YouTube's finest hour there,
right.
March 2020. Yep.
Yeah, and she had said, hey, there's this blueprint. There's this WHO blueprint. And this is funny because she's the only person that seems to be military. She's an officer for some reason. And the only other, and Sina Bavari, she'd been watching Mark Kulak and talking about Sina Bavari and who let the virus out, which was at Fort Detrick, which closed down Fort Detrick in July of 2019. So she found it really interesting that the only technical officer, the only military person in the team on the WHO blueprint, which lays out 5 of the most probable viruses and 5 of the most probable vaccines, and an architecture to make sure that the proposals come in under this ADEPT architecture, ADEPT architecture. Sure that, hey, you have to apply, you have to go out and get the ADEPT tool, you have to apply so that we sort of introducing an operating system into this. What's so critical is that this WHO document blueprint introduces a platform, introduces a middle layer or middleware, which was called ADEPT, which is sort of like Bill Gates when he came into computers. Before computers wrote code to go directly to write to the devices and so forth, they introduced this thing in the middle called Windows. And then from then on, you own the game. You've introduced a constriction in the Potomac. Now you're George Washington, Thomas and Hamilton. You're the Department of Revenue with the Coast Guard, and you make all the money. You're introducing a constriction in the process of the virus vaccine game. That's what the WHO blueprint was. So Carol looked at it and said, wait a minute, this document, she's the only military person, or at least the only person with military oversight from the WHO Secretariat, reporting to the UN and reporting to NATO, right? That's working with Sina Bavari, the guy who let the virus out. That's pretty incredible, right? And I said, yeah, well, geez, let's write it up on the whiteboard. So we're just whiteboarding. We're not saying anything's true or not true. We're just, collecting information at these shreds. That's what you do. And the Armed Diplomatic Services courier came up. That subject came up. And she was kind of like, well, wouldn't that make sense if, the Fort Detrick and, that's classified information, and she's the officer that seems to be overseeing everything to make sure classified information won't come out, and that she's giving classified information about the adept structure, the middleware that the vendors have to put out, and then she's getting all the proposals. Could she have also been, could have been her diplomatic mission that went to Wuhan? And the other bananas person was the armed diplomatic person for her and for Sina Bawari going to the games. It's like, well, if you were rolling out your first adept virus and you're going to be receiving all the adept vaccine proposals, wouldn't you want to go and see how it's rolling out? Let's say that the Blackwater launched this thing in August at Chengdu at the Police and Fire Games. Let's say it had come down river in 2 months. Remember, it can come down through effluent. That's very important. Gao, the guy who was at Event 201, said it came to Wuhan via effluent, means of a riparian method, came down the river. Gao said it came down the river. Okay. Well, Chengdu's upriver, folks. Blackwater Health and Chengdu is up the river. And I don't think they'd be downing planes in Philippines today if there wasn't some relationship there. What's his name? There's an article in Bloomberg about how Eric Prince has $1 trillion boss in China and the new Blackwater facility in Tianjin.
Oh, I didn't see that article. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't sign up for Bloomberg, but if you sign up for that article, you'll see how he's got $1 trillion. He worked for $1 trillion boss in Jiaxing, I think is how you say it. I don't know if it's how you say it or not, but Bloomberg has an article about Eric Prince working for China and Jiaxing. But this is what Task Force said in 2017. It's going to be a replay of Libya. It's going to be a replay of Arab Spring. The attack on America, when it comes, is going to be using the Muslim Brotherhood, just like they were used in the Arab Spring. It's going to be a combination of bioweapon, right? Combination of, white canvas production and Clockwork Orange, right? And that's what's going to happen. It's not going to be an attack. It's not going to be the Club K missiles being fired, at all these cities. It's going to come subtly. Okay. So that's why we're over this weekend, that's why
we made it through mid Ohio, Southern Ohio, into Indianapolis, and
okay, yeah. You got the article up there about the Chinese boss, right?
Yeah, that's from 2019. There might be a more recent one, but yeah, we got a Chinese boss, and I mean Eric Prince, man, it's just
who's the $1 trillion boss in the article? Read down. I didn't buy the Bloomberg subscription, but it's probably worth getting it.
Here, I'll put you back on the screen. I'll scroll down and find it because we don't want people here seeing scrolling text.
But isn't it interesting the year that this thing rolls out in Chengdu at the Police and Military Games? Isn't it interesting? That's the year he signs with $1 trillion boss in China, right? I mean, part of news and news gathering is looking at modus operandi. Blackwater basically was the huge recipient and beneficiary of Iraq. Later turned out to be a lie, which was weapons of mass destruction. So they've lied before to get trillions. The next time you lie to get trillions, you've got to go to your list of people that lied to get trillions. Big lies, right? So tell me how many Iraqs there have been in the last 20 years where people lied and got trillions. There's a few people, you could say Global Strategies and a couple of other ones, but nobody benefited like Blackwater benefited. Nobody.
And all the subsidiary companies, they make a new company for every contract.
And this is where he's going to get out of the helicopter business. This is where he's going to get out of monitoring, pipeline routes and green zones. Eric Prince doesn't want to do that forever. He wants to play middleware now. He wants to get into this adept middle layer that this blueprint rolled out.
Spin it off and sell it. Spin it off and sell it.
I'll show you. I don't think he wants to spin this off.
Well, not
This
well,
virus
like
vaccine games is forever.
No, the other
Yeah.
stuff, the
Yeah.
old
Oh,
stuff.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the
He's
green
farming-
zones, the rocky green zones,
Yeah.
and taking out the trash,
Yeah.
and bringing Gatorade to
the
troops
body
and-
business, where you're getting $1,000 or $3,000 a body a day. That's over.
Yeah.
Get out of that business. Get into the intellectual property business, right? So remember, effluent. It can come down river. So if you pollute enough upriver in Chengdu, it's going to come down river. Even if the river is only going 3 miles an hour, it's going to make it to Wuhan, folks. Calculate the speed. Calculate the speed of the river in Chengdu. Calculate the day that these police and military games started, the Blackwater police military games started. And then you tell me when the virus gets to Wuhan.
So to all of our viewers in China, we need you to go put a little paper boat in the water and let it just drift downstream, and we're just going to track how long it takes that little paper boat to
spray it Blackwater, make sure you have the Blackwater logo on it and then put I am a virus. And then, you've got your solution there. Right?
But that river with all the connections with Crane Naval Research and the black or not the Brown Navy with like the naval research on the rivers, and we didn't make it all the way to Crane this weekend because a little too far down there, and the visitor center was closed with the holiday and everything. But and I mean, we've been talking about like the documentary and the story, and where does the story start in the full arc of the arrow, and there's any number of places you can start it, but it's like McDuff on the Nashville with MacArthur, as far up the Yangtze River as it'll go, is like opening scene, right? It's
because everything beyond the horizon line becomes where you put your CIA virus vaccine game, which is Hodel, right? But you should also know, okay, that let's just do math, because there's this new thing with math that you can actually figure some of these things out, where you say Chengdu's 1,000 miles upriver, let's say, okay, and the flow is 5 miles an hour. It's going to take 200 days. Okay, now that's just saying if they're dumb enough just to dump it straight into the water. Right. But I mean, you could always speed these things up with helicopters and so forth, but once you have your Blackwater operators there at the games, you see what I'm saying? Is now I'm in a position where I can go down river and do some surreptitious things.
Well, you were talking about those little spray balls that can float down the river on the foggy mornings, spritz on a foggy morning.
I'm just saying, you figure out, right, when the big super spreader event is going to happen. And then you go down river far enough and you dump the little balls in, the little fish bobbers, and you dump them in, and then lo and behold, they're just heavy enough so you can't see them go down the river. But then there's an activation where they I can't remember, weight activation or whatever, but then they bobble up and then they release their spray.
And this is something our Department of Defense and
DARPA
rather, excuse me.
And there's been a whole bunch of these. This isn't they've been working on the spray mines for ever since Navy under advanced research, right? But this is what that's all they have. You're exactly right, though. This is what Navy research units, that's the only thing they have on the Brown River, right?
Yeah, there's not too much on the rivers, up and down and shore to shore, but it ain't like traveling the seas,
They haven't had a battle
since the Civil War, right?
Since the Civil War. And their try at the subs didn't go so well. The Hunley didn't fare so well. This is all these guys got, right? So anyway, she said, well, that's the diplomatic commission that's going from, if she's a part of the, Dutch military intelligence, Benassi is, or if she's a part of NATO military intelligence, or Swiss, an adjunct. She's the NATO's girl, inside of Switzerland, which is a neutral country. We don't know who she works for, but wouldn't that be the person who would be on the going to Wuhan, right? And see, this is where we may have an overlap in the metadata. And I'll show you as we get into my document here with
when you say we don't know who she works for, she works for the WHO Secretariat,
and that reports directly to the UN and NATO. There's no doubt about that. But I'm just saying that she could be dual-headed, where she could. This is what Carol is saying, that Bavari and her could have gone there in some sort of diplomatic mission, right? The Blackwater guys let the stuff go upstream, right? 2 months later, now you have a breakout of some unknown thing, right? You have a framework. Isn't it great? You call the WHO, right? Hey, George Gao calls the WHO. Hey, I've got a new breakout in Wuhan. We've never seen this before. We've isolated it. We've never seen it before. We're going to send it to this lab. Okay. You need to send all your adept people here. Do you have anybody who's an adept in adept? Adept is the rapid battlefield analysis tool, right? That's the new Blackwater value added. Do you have any adept people that you can send? Right. And so let's send the adept people under diplomatic mission. Then you would need an armed diplomatic security services person, like the other bananas person. This is what Carol was saying back then, was that, and I discounted it. I have to be honest. I was like, well, I don't know. I think it would be the NATO commanders that just wanted to go to the games. And we still don't know the answer. I say, it would be whoever the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO was, or a former Supreme Allied Commander like Stavridis or James Jones, or somebody who, was thinking of doing this, using this bioweapon in 2016. You'll see the adept schedule, when they throw out the adept schedule of when you the vendors need to have their adept bids in to the adept person who's receiving the bids, who is Virginia Benassi. You'll see it's the summer of 2016. Right after they get the bids and decide on the bids, Peter Strzok's talking about an insurance policy. 2016.
Autonomous diagnostics to enable prevention and therapeutics.
Yep.
Right.
So I'm going to go to the document and just show you this document the new book. I changed the title.
You want to share your screen, you're saying?
I will,
and then
I will.
Here I got the DARPA. There's our little DARPA webpage with Adept. I could read a little of it.
This comes right out of DARPA. They love 5-letter acronyms. If you don't believe that, on your own time, go count the number of letters in DARPA. Okay. Right. And you'll see there's even a P in there, and there's an A in there, and there's a D in there. I mean, they tried to hornswoggle the letters of DARPA to come up with Adept. This is the ambition of DARPA for the 21st century. Adept is the Bill Gates operating system, right? Adept this was going to be the debut. I remember in the old days with when we used to talk directly to the drivers, and you had to write drivers directly to the printers and modems and stuff. The big selling point was printers. You can't talk to all the printers. You're going to need to hire a whole bunch of people that are going to you're going to have to talk to the printers. You want to have an operating system talk to the printers. You just want to throw it over to the operating system. The operating system will print it for you, right? The same logic was used here with the virus and vaccine companies. We'll just throw it over to Adept. Let Adept do the analysis, right? Let Adept, come up with this was going to be the debut of Adept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's go to the document.
Let's go to George's document.
It's 100.
I don't know.
I'm getting it.
Oh, you're getting it. Okay.
It's 182 pages as it exists. Right now, I'm at the point where it's too big for the envelope already. So we're either going to have to go to printing smaller, or I got to stop writing. But,
well, whatever the decision is going to be, you guys are going to be, given a front row seat to the process next week when folks start flocking into the Michigan studio. We do have a place to stay. It is not the farm. Fortunately or unfortunately, I took George out to the farm, and the shower was right there with the horses. And he was like, this probably isn't going to work for everybody. We got to help these
farmers. I loved it. It
was cool,
but it wasn't going to work for everybody. Plus,
yeah,
if Harry the Greek comes, there's some people that have a little bit more challenge in the mobility department.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it wasn't going to be it just wasn't going to be enough. But we have a beautiful place.
Yeah, we got some digs. We got
and bring your RV. If you want to have, we have RV for as far as the eye can see, right on Lake Erie, an incredibly good price, by the way.
Yeah, so we got a place. There's bedrooms and space for folks, and if you can contribute by cooking meals or of course financial contributions or anything else, those are always
paper.
appreciated.
Bring
But-
paper,
or
high quality.
if you
high
can't
quality
bring-
photo paper,
If you can't bring anything but your arms and legs,
or
that's
ink.
all we want, because we're going to put you to work. We got a jogger, we got printers, we got binders. There's so many books to print that if you want to come, we want you here.
Eco Tank 542. Bring Eco Tank 542, magenta, black, yellow, cyan, and whatever you like.
Absolutely, yeah. So the materials are important, but people are going to be coming to Michigan here to print this book, and by the end of next week, after the book building charrette, we are going to be shipping them out, and that'll be the second book release here from Neighborhood News Studio, and the first book of the month, we might call it, right? Because we'll start the book of the month club with this one. But yeah, I mean, come on in, folks. Come and help next week here at the studio.
It will be in Ohio, so it won't be in Michigan. But we will be
back and forth. Yeah,
we will be printing more of these, and we do have copies of these available. Virginia Benassi, and for all your friends, I think that they ordered 4 of these. So Virginia, if you want to send us enough postage to cover your 4 copies, I wonder if it was the 4 people on the University of Texas.
I think it's
medical branch.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's Virginia and those over at the Who. They're probably pissed. They're probably like, what have they been using us for all these years?
This is all the marbles, man. This is all the marbles. This is the Super Bowl of Super Bowls. We figured this one out. This is the most important journalism event ever. Okay, journalism event.
Sure.
Because it's sort of like, I'm trying to think something even comparable where you put the whole into a fake story.
Where like journalists figured it out for the world rather than investigators or police. Or
name me another event with this kind of world-changing nature in terms of investigative journalism. Name me another investigation other than maybe Gary. Well, this is bigger than Gary Webb and Iran-Contra.
Absolutely. There's
way
7,000 times what Iran-Contra is. This is the entire world being shut down with a
name me
intentional bioagent.
Throw this out to the audience. Name an investigative process where you out of the virus vaccine game, you out the Gavi game with the Adept operating system, you out the whole black hand in this. Name me another one. The only thing I can think of is the guy who wrote the book on Blackwater the last time, which was a guy from he went on to where did he go on to? He went on to the Intercept.
Mm-hmm.
He was writing a book with the guy who got with the drone thing in California. Not Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens, Henry Kissinger, USA versus Henry Kissinger, or whatever that book was he wrote about the trial of Henry Kissinger.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Christopher Hitchens might be the only person who had something this big. But when you see the evidence, you're going to go, oh my God, I think they got it. I think that's right. So can they see this, Aaron? Because
they can see your book. Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at
so
let's make it. You like it the little screen there? Or you like the big screen?
No, the big screen's good.
Like that, yeah.
So
remember, Andy says don't give it all away for free.
I'm not giving it all away for
I'm
free.
Teasing. I don't care if you do.
But here's this. You've seen this already, and the people who ordered the book will get the first 25 pages here. Okay, but you've seen how the CNN flip-flop in the last 3 months for a year of damages, right? Then you saw how it was. I have 7 affidavits saying it came from the foreign ministry, not George trying to hurt someone. And then Jack Prosobic comes out and says it the super spreader event was in the thing. The stock art for Virginia Benassi, for some reason, immediately showing us that they're hiding that for some reason. Why wouldn't they just put her picture out there? She seems awfully young. The probable Virginia Benassi, right here, who has an incredible resemblance to the male person who's been featured on CNN. An incredible resemblance. But you get the idea. A blood virus in China, new novel blood virus in China in 2009. Does that sound like any other novel new blood virus that just is shutting down the world right now? Yeah, it sure does. So, and there's all the the things. The key here is you're going to find 4 people on the University of Texas, a medical branch. Remember where we get there's the one struck down there at the University of Texas medical branch. He's in the Coast Guard, and he has the midnight meeting at the Situation Room.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Who wakes Obama up that late? Come on.
Yeah, and then we had one in San Diego with Carter Page. Don't forget. So during this, 2014 there was an incident, 2013. But anyway, here it is. She got involved. I think she got involved in 2016, and this may be where I might have made a mistake. Or it could have been we're both right. Both Carol is right and I'm right. Because it was an international collaboration for, this is the chart here, is for the low blood plate count, okay, thrombocytopenia. And you can see here the University of Texas. You can also see the University of Texas Cancer Center, okay, is involved. And you're going to see Dayton, Ohio here, where we were on Friday.
Yeah, we'll play some videos from that later
Which
on.
is the NAMRU Center. Remember NAMRU? We'll go through the history of the NAMRUs with, NAMRU in the Vietnam era, and then NAMRU then in over here in Camp Lemonnier. The same places where I'm getting death threats from, Aaron, is the NAMRU over here in Djibouti.
I was going to say, no Djibouti jokes today, everybody.
Isn't that funny?
It's a Monday, no Djibouti jokes.
Isn't it funny that I'm getting death threats from a Navy guy who was at NAMRU in Camp Lemonnier?
Yeah.
Isn't that, I mean, is
right there with
that's
Pete,
pretty specific.
Pete Buttigieg. He'd be our president if they would have just told us
That's a pretty
up front that he was there too, you know?
That's a pretty specific death threat. And he's at NATO Norfolk. So it does not tell you that NATO Norfolk is NATO ACT is the, anyway. So here's the Ohio link to this. This is their stuff off their website, which I am allowed to capture under journalistic, fair use. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the Naval Medical Research Unit, the NAMRO unit at Dayton, where we were, Aaron, is involved in this project as well. This is that link. Right next to this is Battelle. Right next to this. We went to Battelle in Columbus, but Battelle also has a location. Kevin Timmer showed us. Also in Dayton. I also showed in the limited warehouses that Wexner had over there. You also had warehouses where they were storing weapons. What's the Mossad general doing, in the limited warehouse, looking through missiles? Why would he do that? I mean, he's not shopping for clothes. Okay. So here's the Naval Medical. This is the NAMRU in Dayton, where we took you on Friday.
Saturday.
Oh, on Saturday. We were working weekends here. God darn it.
We couldn't get down there during the week on the road show. We just did the Saturday road show for sure.
But if you look
I'll flip that on there even if you want while you show that.
If you look into this, really, what you're going to see is this NAMRU Dayton was really the replacement when they took it out of Berkeley. The first one was in Berkeley, but they got it out of Berkeley. They got it out of the academics. They controlled the Nazis controlled the University of California, right after the war. But in the Manhattan guys, when they put them in there, but you have to decentralize this stuff. So this NAMRU really,
I took you off real fast, and here's you outside Dayton, just showing everybody. Muted. I got it muted. So
with the C-13s and stuff.
Yeah, this was us outside the Air Force, the Air Force.
I still
museum.
think that thing on the thing was right. My initial thing, the dual engines with the F-14 Tomcat. Some people said it was the F-15 Eagle. I still say it was the F-14 Tomcat.
It's all there, folks. Dayton, Ohio.
Remember the Iraq-Iran war? F-14 Tomcat. That's what the Iranians had, right? F-14 Tomcat. Then the Israelis got the F-15 Eagle, and that was over.
That's right.
Remember
I'll
the
put
bombing?
your screen back on.
Who bombs? The one in near Baghdad, the reactor, the Osiris reactor or whatever it was? It got bombed by the Iranians. The next year, the Israelis bombed it. I think it was the F-15 that got through. Better electronic warfare on the F-15. Just my opinion. Gosh, I don't want the hate mail.
Well, we haven't brought Harry Harris into the story yet. Is it not his time yet? A couple acts still before Harry gets in.
Harry Harris is going to be your guy with Fat, not Fat Albert, but Fat, what's his name?
Fat Leonard.
Leonard.
That's right.
Fat Leonard. And every place that you're going to see these bioweapons, this goes back to Lady Scripps and the whole, with her son dying of H1N1, which is crazy.
Mhm.
Again, on an aircraft carrier in the Middle East. So it's tough to be in this business sometimes because you get to know all these people, and you know, these are horrible. You know, these are people who've really had people die.
Inspiring though.
It is inspiring that we're doing something about it. It's inspiring we're doing something about it. So anyway, here's your Namru D. I put it in there so people know, right? And here I am on the tarmac. There's the C-17. There's the bulbous nose one. I can't remember what they call the bulbous nose. I think you get the idea. We go to these places. Now, task force, we weren't able to prove out the task force piece of this because if you get the idea that these are the platforms behind me, and then the things on the undercarriage is the payload, and the payloads were either going to be nuclear or biological, and that's why they all ended up in Dayton. So task force basically is saying the sword and shield split. The sword and the shield split in the bioweapons. You have the delivery of the virus, and then you have the delivery of the vaccines. She's saying because of the history of Eli Lilly, and of course this gets backed up by Judith Ferry Baker, that you put your shield guys into Eli Lilly, which is close by. Isn't it interesting, Aaron, that I make it in the Hall of Fame between those two locations? I'm just saying, it's not the news Hall of Fame, but it's the basketball Hall of Fame. But
I can't believe you took that off your Twitter. That was my favorite one. I'm sure some of these folks in the audience saw that. We made quite a few stops in Indiana, and we stopped in Newcastle, Indiana, where the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame is. And George is like, I'm in there. You know, and I said, well, we got to go, you know. So we pulled off the highway. We went into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, and sure enough, there was George. They didn't have too big of a display for George. He was just kind of on a virtual kiosk. Yeah. But it was still great, and he went around. But then he took it off Twitter because it was not topical to the research, you know, and everything.
But it isn't it interesting if we do prove out this link with the bioweapons, that history will be made between those two locations, between Eli Lilly and Crane, a little bit further in Terre Haute, and Dayton.
And you were talking a lot about how
I'm just saying history, Hall of Fame history, news Hall of Fame, and I won't be on a kiosk anymore. You know, this will be bigger than a kiosk.
Well, you might still be at the Basketball Hall of Fame, but at a different.
No, I'm talking about real news Hall of Fame. You know, Gary Webb's going to be in there, and you know, Christopher Hitchens is going to be in there. But I think I might have him on this one.
Absolutely. Well, you explained how
this could be big. When you see the rest of this is getting into the good stuff.
A lot of the paperclip Nazis came to Ohio, which makes a lot of sense because, you know, you've got towns in Ohio called like Germantown and stuff, right?
I went to Miami of Ohio. We have, you know, it was bratwurst everywhere. You know, we had with the GE engine plant. It was, you know, over in, I can't remember whether it was near Green Hills. I can't remember the suburb.
But then there was the Nazis, you know, they're all coming into Columbus, Dayton, you know, all throughout southern Ohio there, and
completely. I mean, it's very Germantown. So I'm just saying, we had Fernald there. With the plutonium pits you had up at the mounds all around Miami there. This is where I'm from. This is where I went to school. Okay, I'm just saying, this is where Bob Mueller does the fake Fernald, where he gets rid of everybody in Fernald and puts his people in. This is where Piketon is, where we still have people going to that 20% enrichment level. And guess what? With those new fast reactors that Bill Gates is selling, you can do the HALEU. Oh, isn't that interesting? That Piketon, again, sometimes I just look back and go, man, we just nailed it 4 years ago.
Well, and the thing that stands out, and I know
the high assay LAU, okay, 20% enrichment level can go in these small, fast sodium reactors that Bill Gates is hawking right now. Isn't that interesting?
And
you have all the Ukrainians there.
And what went on there 100 years ago, maybe not 100 years ago, but was the floating reactors, right? They were putting nuclear reactors on ships on the Ohio River to see what they could do with them. And whose dad did that? Bill Taylor.
Well,
you know?
I think if you look, Bill Taylor's, that Bill Taylor's dad did was on the James River.
Oh, he wasn't on the Ohio. He was on
why? Because you want the boat going out to sea.
Sure.
You know, you don't want it going down the middle of America if you have an accident, right? So, but
just all that naval stuff, and I mean the floating reactors on the barges back, you know, before all this other technology is the origins of it, and you know, Bill Taylor's dad.
Well, the reason why you definitely have all this stuff happening on the Mississippi is the barge traffic. It's cheaper to ship there. Wheeling, obviously, we went to Wheeling for the same reason. We're right there by Shipping Point, which is where the first nuclear reactor was. You got to get the uranium somehow, and you've got to get it to the location, and then you have to make sure that, hey, if we're going to do floating reactors, we have to be able to float these things out of here. They weigh a lot. We're not going to be able to put them on. They're so big, you can't put them on a truck. Transport logistics cannot wheel out. Now they finally got it to where transport logistics could wheel out the reactor.
Right.
They finally got small enough. This new one, Bill Gates is hawking. The real small ones, I think you actually can get out on one of those Kamaz tractors. So
the new scales. Are those the new scale ones or other companies other than new scale?
In pieces. The
Sure.
one. Yeah. So anyway, don't want to get too far off.
Yeah.
But I'll just show you that
Ohio, Southern Ohio, the whole.
Go back to these pieces. Singapore is in this thing. If you remember, we had this Statistics Singapore group that was involved in the metadata of these diplomatic missions going to Singapore since 2016. This is when Peter Strzok was considering using the insurance policy. And we have IP addresses going to Singapore, and we have Duke, which is David Grange, and Duke at the National University of Singapore involved in Libya, right? So David Grange was testing with PDD in Haiti with these bioweapons. He's also out of the Port of Norfolk. He also did Syria. So this is the same individuals over again. This is also where coronavirus was moved from a bat to a human. Okay. This was where Zhou, ZHOU, in the coronavirus experiments. So again, David Grange, Duke, National University of Singapore.
So the Singapore statistics, this would be a government agency in Singapore. Yeah. And you found IP addresses to their
correct
way. Was this the same week that you guys had YouTube's Finest Hour?
Yeah, I actually have documents which have our original person who is connected with Singapore statistics and also the Oklahoma Veterinary School.
And the statistics would be
also the Eastern Theater market of Chinese intelligence in Nanjing, China. Which isn't it interesting that one of the people who gets sick in Wuhan is at the Eastern Theater Command in the Wuhan branch. But this goes back to 2016, and this supports the Carol. I'm not saying Carol put this out as a theory. I'm just saying she said, well, couldn't she have been, it couldn't be like her mother-in-law?
Every piece of research is just a step down the road, and
could it be her mother-in-law? I mean, is that if she got the job, like you said, if you got the job through the mother-in-law, could it be that she's just going to, provide, diplomatic security for her mother-in-law? Is that why there's the same IP addresses in the Eastern Theater Command in Nanjing in 2016 and also down here in Singapore?
Well, maybe Scott Pelley will ask these questions this coming Sunday. Huh?
I don't know. We have the IP addresses.
I think probably not, and we can't get answers to, they won't answer us despite our best attempts, right? But these are pretty easy questions with presumably easy answers, right? You're not asking off the wall stuff.
Have you ever been there in 2016? We have your IP addresses there in 2016. Have you ever been there? That's an easy question. This is all going to come out in Discovery. So here's one of the researchers that you see a lot with Virginia. You can start asking these different researchers, hey, do you know Virginia Benassi? Here's David Beasley. He's a researcher at the University of Texas Medical Branch. He's involved in a lot of these China viruses, China hemorrhagic fever type viruses, just to give you an example. And he's one of 4 people out of this university. And here's the schedule they put out for the insurance policy, Aaron. There it is. It's all happening in the summer of 2016. All deadlined. Look at the deadlines. You got to have all your things into Virginia by the end of July.
Can we try a live action thing here real fast, George? Can you make that 100% 125 or 150 and see what it looks like? You see that there? Maybe a little too big there, I guess. I think.
Let's see how it all ends in July of 2016. most meritorious ideas, but it's all within the ADEPT framework. That's the key here. These are platform technology, public consultation timeline. Okay. See these orange proposals review?
Yep.
Okay. Right.
I thought you could just go full screen. I didn't know you had to scroll like that.
If you buy the book,
way, yeah.
Aaron, if you buy the book, right, you'll get the first 25 pages. Okay. If you buy this book,
if you buy the Corona Roadshow, well,
you get the first 25 pages of this book, George Webb versus CNN.
Okay.
We gave the first 25 pages to everybody else. Well, that was
we didn't give them to everybody.
Oh, right. We haven't. Okay.
We gave them to the first 50 of the first 150.
Okay.
So
we won't give these away. You want to be able to read it, buy the book. Okay?
Yeah, no, it's the next round. I mean, this will be the next release. It'll be coming soon.
This is Andy saying, don't give away the candy.
Right,
I'm giving it away. Here it is.
We're only on 13 of 182. So I think we won't be able to get all the way through it anyway.
No, we're not. But I'm just saying these proposals, Aaron, went to Benassi V at WHO. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is an email address. Okay. Your Honor, this is not conspiracy theory. This is an email address that we knew about at the time of our reporting.
And now we expect that, presumably J&J, Pfizer, Moderna at some point sent their proposal to that email address.
Here's the important point, Aaron. You had to go and download the ADEPT framework. You had to show that your vaccine could be delivered within the ADEPT framework. You had to, in order to play ball here, sort of like, banning you from getting on a plane unless you get the vaccine. In order for you to be on the Michigan team, right, you're going to have to go through you need to give our alumni association $100,000. Okay. If you want your kid into Michigan, from China, right, you need to give us $100,000.
Well, and that's how they get a person who might be a lovely, amazing person like Virginia B to do her job without thinking too hard, right? Just, hey, here's the document. You're going to get a bunch of documents. They're all in a form. The box here is clicked or not clicked. The box there is clicked or not clicked. This thing you're going to read is going to be on a scale of 1 to 10. You want it closer to 10. I mean, instead of a qualitative analysis, she has a form letter that she's going through every day, 100 different form letters. And that's how, the people who manage her and don't want her to know what she's a part of get her to do the job. Possibly.
I'm totally saying the Benassis are innocent in this.
Well, some of them.
Some of them, not the NATO ones.
Yeah.
But I'm not the NATO top dogs. Not the NATO top dogs.
Correct.
The NATO top dogs are doing this and the underlings are paying the price. They're just executing the orders. Right?
Yeah, but we can't hide. I mean, this is the web address where the COVID, the mRNA vaccines went here, or these are different vaccines. All the vaccines go here.
All of them. So
it's like,
you want to participate in these next 5, right? You want to participate in Zika and dengue fever and all these 5 that we put in the blueprint. You got to get into ADEPT. That's the signal that's sent out to people.
Right.
That's the signal. If you want to be a part of this anymore, you got to buy the Windows operating system early development kit. And you've got to put your software on the Windows development kit, and you need to make your printer calls to the operating system instead of the printer, or we're not buying you. And this is tremendous market power, because who buys 50 million vaccines? Aaron, tell me all the times in your life that you've bought 50 million vaccines for anything.
Well, Henry Kissinger and a few others at the State Department are probably the only ones who ever get to make that decision.
Because he says you can control companies with vaccines, right? And viruses, right?
It's all
that's his book. That's Henry Kissinger's book. There's one guy or 2 guys or 5 people in the world that buy vaccines 50 million at a time. So this is tremendous market power to get people go to ADEPT. Okay, you see she's also on and was meeting physically in Geneva with these teams for Ebola. And Sina Bavari in the summer when they were having these meetings is on the Ebola team. I wish she wasn't. But the meeting, when they're having these summer meetings at the same time they're doing this ADEPT strategy, Sina Bavari is in Geneva. Okay.
And now she's the one who connects with Sina the most, right? On the team, from what our research has ascertained, is that, like when you go to the WHO blueprint team, she's the liaison with Sina, we think, more than anyone else, which, I mean, Sina Bavari is top of the mountain in our research of questions and
Well, this
nefarious
guy
activity.
too. This
Yeah,
guy too. You know, Giuseppe, and what's your relationship to Virginia?
I'd say even though Giuseppe seems like a huge character, Cena is running Fort Detrick USMRIID when the door is left open. I mean, Cena is the smokingest gun of smoking guns ever.
I'm not saying he isn't. I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just saying my case
1A and 1B,
doesn't
right?
have Cena Bavarian in it, but it has these individuals that are in it. These are people that all came out in that first week.
Sure.
First couple of days, actually. So these are all the subpoenaed witnesses. That's what I'm drawing a box around, just saying, hey.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
This
is George Webb versus CNN. This is why I say this case with these people testifying will bring more light onto what happened in China than the Ed Henry case versus CNN, also suing for defamation, or the Dershowitz case, or the Sandman case. What did we find out from Sandman? We found out the guy, the Indian guy with the tom-tom, had a drug habit or whatever. I mean, we didn't find out much from the Sandman case, right?
I think you and I discussed these cases when we thought we were live and we weren't live, when I was learning how to push all the buttons. But for those who didn't know, here, I'll just show it. This Ed Henry suing CNN as well, right? And we made the joke that when he gets a little piece of gray hair in the front of his hair, that then we'll really know what the story was behind this, because it's like, you can't let Webb have the only action here. Got to find someone else to sue these guys.
And yes, Ed Henry is better looking than me. So there you go.
No, you're better looking than him, George.
We'll see. Okay. So
anyway, back to your notes. Yes.
So and then there's Pietro, and this is the proof that we were talking about Pietro also in doing. Pietro had been lecturing about infectious diseases for NATO in 2007. He seemed to have a career with NATO satellite surveillance, for doing satellite surveillance when there was these flooding incidents where we had virus breakouts for 10, 12 years. So it just seemed like he was in the biosurveillance business as well. And here's Pete Ross's article to prove it. Okay, and there's Donnie saying, well, we're going to ignore all the evidence, about NATO. We're just going to make it about you, right? So you've seen some of this other stuff, and all I wanted to do was go to, well, this is a lot of new stuff, but anyway, we'll go to, let's see here.
Page, you're looking for a certain page.
I wanted to go to the NAMRU. Let me just do the NAMRU.
You just look it up and pop it on screen for you.
Yeah, no. I got NAMRU here. Okay. NAMRU. Okay. All right. So I can't remember where I put in the NAMRUs, but okay, here we go.
Naval Medical Research Unit.
Yeah, there you go. Can you see that?
Yep.
So there's, question mark Virginia Benassi. We still don't know if that's Virginia Benassi or not, right? Okay. But these people are going to be very interesting people, okay? Because we're going to be able to, have her in court. And before that, we'll have interrogatories. So we'll have answers, a lot of these answers. Do you know, Giuseppe Benassi? It could be your husband. I mean, I've seen guys who have wives that work in I work in the Pentagon. She works in the Pentagon, different part of the Pentagon. Bill Gates worked at Microsoft. His wife worked at Microsoft. She was in Microsoft Publisher, the worst publishing program ever. But I'm just saying, sometimes husbands and wives work at the same place.
Hey, Fauci and his wife, Fauci's wife is in charge of medical ethics.
But it would be, I mean, if that comes out in discovery, if I say, have you ever met Giuseppe Benassi? And they say, well, that's actually my wife. And have you ever met an armed diplomatic courier named, Bananas? And they say, well, that's my daughter, or that's my daughter-in-law. And have you ever met a guy working at the Pentagon with the State Department that lived in Brussels and then lived at UCOM, and that's my son?
Presumably,
I mean, it could happen. It could happen. It could happen in the interrogatories, and then they wouldn't have to testify against each other. They would have immunity. They would have familial immunity.
Oh, and that's why they wouldn't necessarily use fake names.
I'm not going to testify against my son. I'm not going to testify against my wife. I'm not going to testify against my father. I'm not going to testify against my father-in-law. Right? So you got built-in immunity here, potentially.
Wow.
If that comes back as the objection, right, of why they don't want to do interrogatories or answer those questions, it'll be very interesting. Okay. But I did want to show you how I think we beat the horse dead about how many Nazi aviation guys went into Dayton.
Yes, I made
the platform guys, and it would make total sense. The task force thing, that the undercarriage guys would go there as well. They just would be fanned out around Miami University. You know, some of the guys who did the plutonium pits would go over to the mounds. Some of the guys who did the reactors would go over to Fairnold, you know, where there's a water source. Some of the engine guys would go over to GE, where they would do the engines. Far away, some of the guys would go into biosurveillance at Scripps, which is at Miami. I almost went to Scripps.
Mm-hmm.
There, and so forth. There would be a diaspora around Dayton. They wouldn't put them all into Dayton. They were not that stupid, right?
And the metadata proves that out.
The metadata
resoundingly with the life that we live here in Ohio, and you know.
So here, this medical research unit is still there, folks. It's still there. Okay, when I was walking on the tarmac on Saturday, it's still there. Okay, what I wanted to show you though is the history of the NAMRUs in bioweapons in Vietnam and Korea, and then that's like era number 2. Well, the first era really, when the Nazi guys come over, the first era where they really get to do some experimentation is Korea and Vietnam, and that's really NAMRU 2. NAMRU 2 is out of Bethesda. And then Cambodia is where that's the big show. Okay, is in Cambodia.
Wow.
So now what happens is those wars are over. Okay, and the theaters of war now shift to the Middle East. Okay, and Africa. And that's when you bring in NAMRU 3, which was Cairo. Then it was Ethiopia. Remember our good friend Tedros? It was in Ethiopia, and then they closed that down, and they moved it to where? Camp Lemonnier, where we're getting all of our death threats.
So we are
from a State Department Navy guy, who says he's got above top secret clearance. He's got Q level clearance. And he says he looked me up, and he says the FBI is investigating me. Well, that makes sense. I would investigate the only guy who's got the story. I would investigate the only guy who's going to Piketon to see that you've got the Ukrainians coming and going with the Farsi speaking trucking company. I would have an FBI informant try to leave that guy down the wrong trail. I would have the CNN try to smear him the next day. I wouldn't present evidence that there was an FBI informant. I would never present evidence that he got it right and it was Ibrahim, their partner with NATO ACT coming and going in Norfolk. That the Ibrahim gang was arrested in 2018. I'd come back at him again during the election of 2020. People out there will ignore all the information. We have total market power. They'll ignore all that in 2017 that he had that story. They'll ignore the 2018 with the Ibrahim gang because nobody will ever connect the dots. We'll go after him again in 2020, like Donnie O'Sullivan never tried to go after him in 2017. Except there's one thing left in America called the justice system, right? We don't know. Could be that CNN hires a fleet of lawyers, and probably our good friends over there at that did the DNC lawsuit that ended up in a hung jury, right?
Elias is pretty busy these days. So
Bruce Elias,
Mark Elias.
He's
a little busy, man. I know, they're
Cooey Perkins. I got to go up against
Perkins Coey. Yeah,
Perkins Coey. I didn't lose against him. We had a hung jury.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So everyone said, "Oh, you're gonna get your clock cleaned by Mark Elias. He's gonna clean your clock." Well, Mark Elias didn't clean my clock. We tied. Imran cut a deal, and they mooted my case. All the motions to dismiss. Oh, the motions to dismiss. They're gonna wipe you out like nobody's ever. They're gonna wipe you out. They're going to wipe you out. Your motions to dismiss are going to be so good. Oh, you're going to respond to the motion to dismiss? They're going to wipe you out. The judge is going to throw you out. Sorry. All my responses to the motions to dismiss were sustained by the judge. And this is the judge with Peter, who's having the
dinners with Strzok.
Well, there seem to be some meetings,
lunches at least.
Yeah, some cocktail hour meetings between Strzok and Page, and what was the guy's name again?
Contreras.
Contreras,
right? This is Rudy. Oh, you were in front of Rudy.
I didn't get in front of.
You didn't get in front of Rudy.
I was in front of Rudy one time.
Oh wow.
And
Rudy Contreras, was a very
I was
famous
waiting.
judge there, man. I mean,
yeah, I was waiting, and I was supposed to come up it was the next on the docket, and there was a case Rudy was looking into, and it was some case in the like Georgetown. Oh, I can't remember what it was. I might be mixed up with cases, but I started going to his courtroom and I started listening and seeing how he handles discovery and how he goes through and how many witnesses he lets you have and
how he likes to direct his school plays.
Well, I don't know if
I
I give Rudy the benefit of the doubt, because whatever. But
that's good
because I think I think Rudy's was like, please don't put me in this position. Please cut a deal. Please cut a deal with Imran, which they did. But I think Rudy had basically said, look, this is going well. If you're going to cut a deal, you better do it now. So I think actually I was going to win that if Imran hadn't cut it. But so I actually got a lot of respect for Rudy for doing that. That shows a lot of fortitude, because here you got Zelensky and Jenny Rhee and Bob Mueller, and they're all over there on D Street, and they're all over there hotboxing all the witnesses. You got Kavanaugh now is loaded up on this. There's no way, we're gonna debar you.
This is not the DC I once knew. Contreras is thinking, right? It's like,
it's tough.
Yeah.
DC is a pressure cooker, and so and I know it's a tremendous amount of pressure on judges. But anyway, from what I saw of Rudy, I was very impressed.
Good.
And I thought he was, pretty much down the middle, as he should have been. But anyway, they adjourned right after this case that I was supposed to be up next on the docket. They adjourned, and it went away and got mooted.
Well, either way, you won't have to deal with Rudy or Mark Elias here on this one. But back to the book here. So you're with NAMRU 3. So we are in the NAMRU 3, era. Regime here. Era, right? I mean,
this is who's running the bioweapons in Africa and Asia.
Which is 1946, 1947. I mean, this is, Kissinger and the guys after the war taking over the system, and we're just still living in the world they built for us.
But I really don't think these guys got it like they did in the NAMRU 2 was the focus of Operation Orange,
okay, so
Task Force Orange, whatever it was then. There was tons of stuff dumped on Korea and tons of stuff dumped on Vietnam, but this is the new era, which is getting into the CRISPR era. It starts before then. This is the Jeff Epstein era up to the CRISPR era, and Epstein kind of goes out when CRISPR comes in. The last thing that Gates and Epstein do is the 12 CRISPR companies, and then Epstein's dead.
So it would have been a NAMRU 3 operation in a sense, what they were.
Arab Spring certainly was NAMRU 3.
Okay.
Right. Iraq was NAMRU 3. Somalia going back to 95 could have been NAMRU. What's tough is if you're a federal judge, you have to deal with the FBI every day. They're your partner. They're the Department of Justice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's a real problem when they bring you evidence, because you're supposed to, kind of look at that and say that's like law almost. I mean, you really have to respect your law enforcement officers. And if everyone was a McDuff type, it would have been great. I would have won the DNC case, and this would be, but if the judge is being presented evidence that's shaky or destroyed evidence, which we've seen with Peter Strzok, this is Peter Strzok. This is Peter Strzok Sr. NAMRU 3 is Peter Strzok Sr., right? Somalia, Congo, all these places where we've had hemorrhagic fever, dengue fever, Ethiopia with Tedros. We're in the heart of darkness right now. Joseph Conrad doesn't have anything on our story right now. Sure. That was about what, one guy going down the Zambezi, right? Wasn't it? I mean, hard dark. I don't know if it's the Zambezi. I mean, it's the Congo River. I think it's just the Congo River. But I think wasn't there a little time on the Zambezi?
You are the English major, right? And we forgot.
But what does he find? Tell me what he finds in Heart of Darkness when he gets at the end.
It's like it's supposed to be, like a psychological message or something, right? Isn't it like in his
But
mind, or it's like the darkness
isn't he
is in
going
his
to-
soul, or I don't
I
know.
thought he was going to find Dr. Schweitzer. No, that's
Yeah, he
that's
is looking for
Livingston. That's Livingston.
It's been a long
But
time, but all right.
I think Heart of Darkness, right, was trying to say you're leaving the civilized world. Okay, I'm going to do my interpretive dance here on Heart of Darkness, and people can correct me. You're leaving the civilized world, and the further and further you snake up the Black Mombasa that the Congo is, the less and less civilized it gets.
Absolutely, yes.
All right.
That's the draw of the book. Yeah.
And the scarier it gets,
Yep.
and the more dangerous it gets. So when you have Apocalypse Now, which recapitulates Heart of Darkness, it's the same idea, only about Vietnam. And I will add the twist to Heart of Darkness, because I do believe that the story of Stanley Livingston did, Livingston goes and finds, Stanley goes and finds Dr. Livingston.
Mm-hmm.
And Livingston's trying to come up with, he's building hospitals, and he's trying to bring civilization to these people,
right.
like you've done in Ghana. Well, I know they have civilization,
continue
but,
on,
but you're trying
yeah.
to health systems in a place for people to eat. And
We're doing good today. We the research is deep today. We'll talk Ghana another day. We're going to get you to Ghana soon enough. But yes,
I'm just saying,
yeah.
Ghana's the slave pens are at the coast there, so this is the end of the Ghana trip.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the Heart of Darkness, going all the way in, and isn't it apocryphal, right? Isn't there a story here? Isn't this allegorical, I should say? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is a teachable moment too, so I guess it's apocryphal, but I mean, it's allegorical, because we're that investigative journalist, right? Stanley is that guy going to find Dr. Livingston, right? He's trying to reconnect the world with somebody who's trying to do right. And it's sort of like journalism. It's sort of like, go to the root, find the source of the coronavirus. We're going up a different river, admittedly. We're not going up the Congo. We're going up the Yangtze.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to go back and extract that truth to the world and bring it back and make it public. Didn't Stanley come back to London, and they were all the rage? Remember when they telegraphed back to London when they got back to we're
talking sophomore, you're 60 something. I guess I started to say your age, but I did do it probably more recently than you, but it's, sophomore class of when I did Joseph Conrad. So I don't know. I don't remember the whole story. I'm surprised you remember all these books.
So there's, I can't remember what the names are. It used to be Stanleyville, and then there's Brazzaville, but I remember
Brazzaville. Yeah, that's for sure.
At various places along the river, he can't just go, oh, I'm going to go ahead and jump on the World Wide Web and tell everybody I found Dr. Livingston. Right?
No, once he finds them, he's like, oh my God, how am I going to tell the world?
Yeah, I got to get
even a bigger challenge.
I got to get back out.
Yeah.
Right. And that's sort of me. I mean, in a way, finding Piketon and the Q level clearances and everything, you die on the way in. Right. And then the last 4 years is finding my way out and getting the story back to the public. Right. And we're, every day goes by, there's another, 500 arrows and machine gun bullets. If you're talking not Clockwork Orange, but if you're talking about, the
Heart of Darkness,
Francis Ford Coppola, the Apocalypse Now.
Okay.
Because the trip out is every bit as dangerous as the trip in. Right. And we're on the trip out now. We found the juice in Piketon. Right. And now we're, transport, logistics, all this stuff with task force. Now we're trying to get the story out.
Oh, a few juices. I mean, you found the juice at YouTube's Finest Hour with the bananas. I mean,
true. I mean,
there's a lot of juices here. We got a lot of juice in this.
I'm just saying, he had to get to a telegraph office. Tell me the story of when Stanley gets to a telegraph office. And I don't believe it was in Stanleyville. I don't believe it was in Brazzaville. I believe it went all the way out. You look at the source in Africa of where, look at the source of where the Congo comes out.
I'm not putting this on screen right now. We've gone to
look at the source.
I will
of where
do my
it comes
homework.
Out. And the British telegraph routes, was how Britain held the network together. And it was they put them in the places where they had shipping ports. Makes sense, right? Because you didn't have the inland areas, so they would put them out on these islands. Kuwait was an old telegraph office for the British Empire. So was Bahrain. Okay. All these island nations that we think of is where the British laid undersea cable. So maybe the telegraph wasn't even there. Maybe they had to sail all the way back to England to get the message back.
The navies ran the world not too long ago, right? The Spanish Armada and the British Navy and the whole thing. I mean, you know, naval medical research, it does have a lot of metadata to support.
I didn't want to go too far off on Heart of Darkness.
Yeah, no, we did a little bit, but back to the naval medical research.
But Gary Webb going into the jungles of Nicaragua and Costa Rica for Iran-Contra, very similar.
Sure.
You can't just pick up your cell phone at the end of the runway, you know, when you're getting flown out on the tree cutters and say, oh, by the way, I've got this whole thing. Ollie North is breaking cocaine here, and this is a CIA operation.
Well, getting YouTube channels smashed, getting Patreons taken away, getting your books removed from Amazon. Those are, journalistic.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This is the Heart of Darkness on the way out.
Right. And that's what you're experiencing. You're George Webb. Oh, I'm about to tell my story. Oh, they took my books down. Oh, I'm about to finally be able to go somewhere. They took my Patreon down. I mean, it's like...
You got it. That's what I'm trying to say here.
This is your life. We're here with you, George, every step of the way.
I'm just saying, it's you're sort of getting the Heart of Darkness.
At least you're not floating the boat by yourself. We're all floating the boat with you here.
Admittedly. Every once in a while you come up to a light on the river and it's a little Christian mission or whatever.
Every one of us in this live chat's a light, we're all doing this together. So continue on. Naval medical research and development.
And the first one was, of course, he's a German guy, and it's in 41. And of course, I'm half German.
Nothing against our German friends,
Not at all. But this is Dr.
Andre. Okay.
No, this is Dr.
Looking for his name in there. Doctor. I can't see. The text is too small. I don't know that you have his name in that picture. Actually, yeah.
Schroeder or something like that. But anyway, it was a German guy. So just so people know where it started, but then they shut it down. Right? They shut it down because I think you're going to find that it was infiltrated after World War II. And it was deemed a security risk. And I'm not saying McDuff, but I'm saying look to the files of why this was shut down. Look to the FBI files of why it was shut down.
I'm just imagining Tom O'Loughlin busting in the door and flipping the tables on these guys. But
that's what I'm saying. Something happened here. So I'm going to not share this anymore.
Okay.
And
we've had enough preview of the book there for today.
I'm just saying there's a Heart of Darkness nature to this story.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things where you can't give up. You know what I mean? Because that's it. Your boat sinks. I mean, you're done. There is no easy out here. You got to go all the way and tell the whole story. Right. And you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound on this one.
Well, you were an English major or an English minor? Okay.
English minor.
You're a minor in English. Okay. But the title today, we're talking about the wrong English literature book because you had us name the show Who's Afraid of Virginia in China, based on another piece of English literature that I was not familiar with.
Okay. So now who is WHO?
Who
is afraid of Virginia in China? Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was written by
that's a famous I thought I knew most American.
Who's Afraid of
literature.
Virginia Woolf was about a woman who
by Edward Albee. Oh, I've heard of Edward Albee. Okay.
But I remember the only thing I really remember about it was Richard Burton was in it with Elizabeth Taylor, and they were both the hot couple of the time. Right. And what I got out of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was that she was somewhat challenging, and somewhat, it's sort of based on the Shakespeare, which was the Tempest in a Teapot. Who was the Tempest? No, the Tempest was the Storm. Who was the Taming of the Shrew?
Okay, yeah.
Taming of the Shrew, I thought Virginia Woolf, again, I may be getting an F right now in college minor English, but Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was sort of like a modern update of Taming of the Shrew.
Okay. Well, the husband's name is George in the book too. So.
I know. I think that's why Richard Burton. Yeah,
George and Martha. George and Martha here in this book. Well, I'll have to add that to the reading list. I'm sure some friends in the live chat have read that. But yes, the English literature references are always great. And Virginia Benassi in China is, really compelling and
well, and the reason why I'm saying this is, who will really be afraid of the story of Virginia in China coming out?
Right. Who the WHO.
Who the WHO and Tedros in Geneva will be afraid of the story of Virginia Benassi in China going there in 2016. It may be for a different China virus that causes a bloodborne illness, but we have the same metadata, right? Now, it could be that Eric Prince and Blackwater did something out there in the hinterlands in 2000 with Mo Jian, the miners in 2012, and that's why they called in the super expert Virginia Benassi, right? It could be that he was experimenting with the thrombocytopenia weapon. Again, Erasmus Lab is the sword, and then the Benassi is being brought in as the shield. Okay. Again, whether they were infected or whether they were inoculated, they still are going to have the antibodies. The diplomatic mission is still going to have the antibodies. You don't send in people to save people that are not inoculated. Look at doctors now; they have to be inoculated. I'm going to be right about the antibodies,
and that's why they won't test them.
I'm going to be right about the antibodies.
That's why they won't test them.
One way or the other, I'm going to be right about the antibodies, right? And that's why Donnie O'Sullivan, you could hear his voice crack when he says, they don't have the antibodies. That's not a very good Donnie O'Sullivan. I should have, I got to do my Lucky Charms.
I got to do my Lucky Charms. There you go. Well, we've got some videos from our weekend we could play.
They're going to test positive for the antibodies, Donnie.
They're never going to test them. They will never. I mean, they killed the doctors, George. They killed the doctors on their front lawn in broad daylight. You think they're
true?
They ain't testing nobody. They'll just keep shooting doctors on their front lawns in broad daylight before they let someone be tested.
And planes will crash in Philippines, and houses, Krylovas and Bogachevas will fall. And did you notice how they released the Seth Rich, Peter Strzok documents again this weekend, right? Right before the 4th of July weekend. Again, try to take you across. They don't want to ever say Seth Rich was, on the Bioweapons Express between Columbus and Hong Kong. They never want to give you that metadata. They never want to say Wexner and never want to say Wexner and Epstein had all those students there at the Battelle Memorial Institute that had experience at all these different labs and flying them to China and, under diplomatic immunity. I can't remember what that Bob Fitrakis' story was, but that express going back and forth, they never want to talk about the bioweapons and
Blackstone Express.
Or no, Bob Fitrakis wrote an article about Epstein and Wexner with the flights to China.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yes,
and
Kevin Timmer talked about that, right? Kevin Timmer was a real familiar with.
And I met Bob Fitrakis in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In right after I went to Piketon, and I thought it was very interesting that he said, "I was ready to depose Seth Rich the day before he died."
Right, that's the story. That's what I've heard you talk about.
Right, and that's when I said, "Oh my, Seth Rich was with the girls too." Right, it wasn't. Seth Rich was with the girls that supposedly did the DNC break-in. He was the handler. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been involved in the DNC hack, right? Seth Rich was the confidence operation to find out which Bernie people were disloyal to Hillary. When that operation was over, you didn't need Seth Rich anymore. That's when it hit me that, oh my God, Seth Rich isn't the hero. I'm like,
Yeah, it was all fun for a little while when we thought he was.
As soon as Bob Fitrakis told me that in Columbus, I was talking to Cliff Arneback. As soon as he told me that, I said, that's bad. I work with Brian Lloyd on Roger Stone's defense team a lot. John met him with me, and Andy Craig met him with me, and he had done a lot. He was on the defense team. He did depositions, and he died unfortunately last year. But Brian, I'd met with him numerous times. I did several videos with him, And why are all the Roger Stone, Manafort, Mike Flynn, all the emails to Trump, all the offering, dangling emails, why is that all in the FBI papers with Seth Rich? If Seth Rich didn't have anything to do with Crossfire Hurricane, why is Paul Manafort and Roger Stone smeared all over the Seth Rich papers?
Isn't there like a preposterous number of pages in the investigation?
20,000, and only 183 have been released. It was 62, and they're all redacted. The only unredacted pages are the information they needed to expose to convict Roger Stone.
That's a lot of pages for a robbery, a wallet robbery gone wrong.
Yeah, if you read the pages, it's not about the robbery. It's about Roger Stone getting the DNC emails offered to him and then offering them on to Manafort, who offers them on to Trump. It's just enough to say Roger Stone lied about when he first knew the Podesta emails were going to be available.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you get. That's the only lens that you get in all this stuff that just came out this weekend with Seth Rich. Another 60 or so pages, all redacted, right? But again, to divert you away from the China story. Who's afraid of Virginia and China? The whole WHO is the answer. Everybody at the WHO is afraid of Virginia and China, because it's my contention that maybe Carol is right, that the first diplomatic mission was in 2016, where they were trying to accelerate this. Virginia didn't know, but Sina Bavari, who might have been with her, knew. The Armed Diplomatic Security Service person from the State Department, when they went to the Eastern Theater Command in Nanjing, didn't know. They just were doing a diplomatic mission. But Sina Bavari knew. Peter Strzok knew. Harry Harris knew why they were going there, because they were going to prepare an insurance policy against Trump. And if you look at everything that happened after that, it's all preparation to then do it later. Do it later in 2020.
Well, I think the WHO is going to change their name. They must be getting real sick of this, us capitalizing WHO and naming our shows, who did this, who did that. When your name is the WHO, it makes it really easy for us to point fingers and ask questions and wonder what's going on over there. And really, like, the WHO is so full of people who are like half lobotomized, automatons who can hardly speak and think for themselves, that it's so clear that the WHO is just, full of people that a darker, more powerful hand infiltrated into there to do their bidding. And I hope some of those folks at the WHO are starting to get pissed that they've been totally used by a darker hand. Because the WHO at this point is, look at all the crap they've peddled on us. From the calibration of the ventilators, right? How many people died because the WHO gave recommendations about a ventilator that was way off track, and, you got a war criminal who was indicted running the whole organization. And, that guy he's not even a doctor. The whole thing is preposterous from the WHO. And I would expect the WHO's got 3 to 5 years of existence before it's just dissolved into something else and renamed. And,
I'm not sure that they knew what was going to be so deadly about the ventilators with the enclosed space.
Of course not.
But I will tell you,
it still happened.
I did a story on this in 2017, that there are these disorderly orderlies. You only need to get one disorderly orderly into a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
An assassination team only has to get somebody sick enough to get them into the hospital. Then the disorderly orderly finishes them off. And when somebody dies in the hospital, they never investigate. So their find and fix is fixes them in the hospital. Second, you put the disorderly orderly in there with the scopolamine, closed space, closed ventilator, gone, right? So
Infidel mentions the WHO is a little more than an international extension of CDC corruption. And I was thinking about how CDC was the ones that closed down USAMRIID at Fort Detrick there. It was the CDC who came in and said, you guys aren't doing this and you're not doing that. And it was under the CDC's authority that USAMRIID was shut down. And so it's like, are they good guys? Are they, what's going on over there? It's like, would the CDC be on the side of trying to help and find out why the door was left open and what leaked out? Or are they covering it up? Because they're the ones who shut down Fort Detrick. Why can't we get more info from the CDC 2 years later?
Yeah, I think they just, you had Asher come in and then classify everything. So now you have the hammer over everybody's head that if you say anything, will put you in jail for 5 years or worse, 20 years.
So there's people at the CDC. It's probably, a few folks at the CDC who really know what's going on.
Paul Cottrell,
mm-hmm.
when he first became like internationally famous in China, was when he came out the story with Masonier, the sister of Rod Rosenstein. Looks an awful lot like Reinhard Gehlen. I'm just saying.
And she works at the CDC, right?
And she said a pandemic is going to hit Trump.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to take Trump out. As soon as this is before anybody had died in the United States, might have been before there was even a patient in the United States. But Paul Cottrell had someone who had intercepted the message from Masonier. Masonier had said, this is going to take Trump down. And you're like, what? Nobody's died yet in the United States from this, and you're already predicting that this is going to take Trump down? That seems like you're telegraphing a message to all your operatives that this is a green light. Masonier is telegraphing it through Rod Rosenstein. This Rod Rosenstein again sends over.
Should we try to follow Nancy? You think she'll block us like Peter Daszak did?
JTTF to shoot me, right? They want me to do something. He wants to kill me. So it's the same guys. Rod Rosenstein's the same guys who did the uranium and Piketon. He's the same guy who sends Mirror Mirror out to the Islamic Society in North America. We didn't go out there. Okay. We didn't go out there because basically, task force, I think with Crane, I don't know. I just don't know if I don't know Ivanek and Degussa on the Wabash Lafayette. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. She could be right. We're going to go back.
It's pretty close to Ohio. We
got to spend more time in Dayton. I'm very much more comfortable with the Namru connection because I've got Namru 3 and I got people threatening my life from Namru 3. I love that when you get that kind of metadata. If you don't get killed, right? But the Ivanek and the Degussa, I don't know. Maybe she's right.
Well, why don't we do a few stops from our road show over the weekend that folks may or may not have joined us or seen on your Twitter and other places?
Lily. I'm with her thing on Lily.
Sure.
I'm with that. That's why I went to Indianapolis. That's why we went to Lily. Yeah, okay.
You're seeing what I'm on. Yeah, I'm not going to go to Indianapolis yet. I'm going to Wapakoneta. First stop was Wapakoneta, right?
The Nazis and everything, and diverting money from the Apollo program and everything. I think why don't we?
Let's. You want to show that? Yeah. You did a good one at Wapakoneta. For folks who are not familiar with Wapakoneta, and how could you not know about Wapakoneta, Ohio, the birthplace of Neil Armstrong, right?
Yes.
And also, I think George won a chess tournament there when he was 12 years old.
A little bit north of there, Lima. Ohio.
Oh, okay.
But I did. There is somebody.
You're like a kid, though.
12 years old.
12 years old. You beat a bunch of grown-ups and stuff, right?
Unrated. I played a couple of 1600s, but
the kid from Fort Wayne. The kid from Fort Wayne rode over to dominate here.
I played in a chess tournament after that in Fort Wayne, where we had a grandmaster 2600. Walter Brown came, and my first, because I had won the unrated. My rating was really high, like 1700. So I played this lady who was like a 1800, and she smokes and she blew smoke in my face the whole time. And she's like
a little kid at the chess table, an old lady smoking in his face.
She's like 60 and she's blowing smoke in my face the whole time. I'm 12 years old. She crushed me.
Well, that's all right. You're tougher now. You're tough as nails now, George, all from your experiences. But here we're going to take you guys to Wapakoneta, where we were on Saturday. It was our first stop heading south out of the studio on a little roadshow tour. So we'll do 2 minutes of this.
Okay, hello everyone. This is George Webb. I'm in Wapakoneta, Ohio. Wapakoneta, the home of Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon. And this is sort of what I call the cover stories. This is the cover story from Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio, just another 60 miles down the road, down I-75 here, is really where all the Nazis came in. Now, this isn't going to be surprising to anybody. You can see they have some of the capsules here and so forth. The Nazis came in. There's different guys through Operation Lusty. That was the Luftwaffe Advanced Science and Technology, Operation Lusty. We're going to be going down there. Andy Jacobson's written about this in Operation Paperclip. This isn't any new news. The fact that they brought all the V2s here to Edgewood Arsenal, and they brought a lot of the scientists here to the Advanced Air Force Museum is not new to anyone. Everyone knows that story. Fewer people know that Carl Bildt of NATO, was the person who was put in charge of the peace negotiations in Kosovo, the Office of the High Representative, or OHR. A lot of the things got farmed out of here during the Dayton Accords in 1995 through those negotiations, through Carl Bildt. A lot of the covert wars, a lot of the covert war funding was through NATO to Carl Bildt, and then the different topples to divide up Yugoslavia, Bosnia, Kosovo, etc. And then the same armies that were created at that time, the same communications that were created at that time, then go on to form other covert wars in Libya, Syria, and other covert wars. So the big idea here is, this is the cover story. This is the homespun cover story. First Man on the Moon, little town, hard to say the name of Wapakoneta. The big story is the formation by Symington there on Gibson Island of this whole advanced aeronautics research area for these Nazi scientists, for these paperclip scientists. And the follow-on is the chemical weapons that go just over the border to Indiana. We're going to be going to Crane as well.
Sorry about the wind there. I didn't realize that was a little windy that day, but still a great video, a great spot. So
yeah, it's kind of set up the rest of the task force theorem, if you will, and certainly going to the tarmac of the Wright-Patterson was the highlight of that.
Sure.
And then in the Indianapolis version that we do on the road, leave out the trip to the Hall of Fame there, because that's a non sequitur. But the two Indianapolis videos are really us asking the question if Evonik, the spinoff. I mean, we did listen to the Evonik YouTube channel. They have quite a YouTube channel, and it's all these German guys with these heavy, thick accents that still work there.
I actually, George, so we were in the car yesterday driving back, and man, Indianapolis is a happening town, I'll tell you. I mean, we were, just is party on the streets of Indianapolis. So we were up a little late, and then George is like, man, I want to take a nap. And I said, all right, well, I got something to put you to sleep. And I turned on the Evonik YouTube channel and just started playing videos from Evonik. And it definitely put him to sleep. It was a little bit interesting, but also a little bit boring. But Evonik Industries, I'll show them on screen. I don't know that we'll play any of their videos, but you can watch their videos on your own. And they are just a bunch of biotech Germans, green energy and all the great stuff that they do over there. They do a lot of videos, though, definitely a couple videos a week out of Evonik. So if you want to learn, and George believes that this is the follow-on to the Degussa company, right, George? I mean, you think Degussa
Yes.
turned into Evonik. So, oops, I got us off screen there.
Well, and here's the general theory here. You might want to play it without audio. That way, I think we're not.
Well, I'll play you in Dayton, you mean? Or you want me to play Evonik, you're saying? We won't play Evonik.
People can play Evonik.
They can research Evonik on their own.
You
just
could play me in Dayton without. I think we already did, right?
We did a little bit.
Well, here's the bottom line. I mean, Degussa did kill a lot of Jews, okay? And they took their company. And the company actually may have ingoted the Jews' teeth into gold coins. Okay, so that's Degussa. Okay, so back off on the, hey, you're smearing Degussa. I'm not smearing Degussa. It was a bunch of Nazis who murdered a whole bunch of Jews and used their gold assaying capability, which later became uranium assaying capability, to mint gold and silver coins out of Jews' teeth. Okay, so I really don't. I'm tired of the lectures, but then people say, well, you shouldn't cast aspersions on spinoffs of Degussa. You shouldn't cast aspersions on, just because they made Zyklon B doesn't mean, with IG Farben and helped IG Farben diaspora all over the world. You shouldn't then look at Evonik. Well, they're a secretive company. They seem to always be around when there is a worldwide pandemic, they seem to have this history of, it's like we know what the toxins are because they came out IG Farben. We have the files, right? This is the thing I'm always trying to do is find the Nazi files, because the Nazi doctor's trial was deliberately kept separate from the Nazi trial. And the reason why you know Judgment in Nuremberg and Richard Burton and Montgomery Clift with the beautiful coal eyes and the black hair and all that, and Spencer Tracy as the judge and everything. The reason why you know that so well is they wanted to push that out there, and they wanted to hide the Nazi doctor's trial. They split the trial. They bifurcated the trial and hid these doctors over here in Luxembourg and Holland, right? And then they put a few up on incel reams like Traub, but Blom and all those guys were hidden in neutral countries, small principalities, where you had control through the king, right? Through diplomatic, associations. And we had just taken over at that time Luxembourg. These kings wouldn't have a place to bathe, right? If it wasn't for the Patton's Third Army rolling through Luxembourg. Right. Yeah. And so we need a favor, guys. Bill Barr's dad's there, Donald Barr. We're going to write a little cover story, and these guys are going to be hanging out at the hotel. I know a lot about this one hotel in Luxembourg. Okay.
So there can't be that many hotels in Luxembourg.
Well, it was Nazi headquarters where Operation Dustbin was, where they held these people, was Nazi headquarters in Luxembourg. Still there. So what I'm saying is that these characters didn't go out of the business. They became part of the IG Farben diaspora. IG Farben's headquarters was not bombed. In the middle of the war, the number one makers of Zyklon B, Tabin, and all these other horrific gases that Traub and Blom and Schrader did, not bombed. How could that be?
Intentionally not bombed. All the commanding officers said, do not let that place get touched, because when we take over and we're in charge, that's going to be where we set up shop. And we're picking it out right now. We're going to tear this place apart, but you leave that building for us.
And it becomes the head of Reinhard Gellen's BND.
Yep.
Until it moves to Berlin, until Berlin's reunified. You think Alan Dulles didn't have something to do with that? Right? Not getting bombed. This was an intentionally preserved. Did they preserve it so these guys wouldn't become CEOs? Right? They became CEOs of Monsanto. They became CEOs of BASF. They became CEOs of Huxt. Remember, everybody in the Huxt merger, okay, with Sanofi, everyone on the Sanofi side dies. You think of it like Louis Pasteur. You think of it like French countryside. You see the bicycle going down the little country road. You see the bagel and the flowers and the thing, and somebody taking home the wine and everything and the pasta and the cheese to their family and putting it on the hearth table in the little French countryside. That's what you think of when you think of Sanofi, right? But I'm telling you, there's way more Huxt in Sanofi than there is Sanofi. All the Sanofi people are dead. Look at the history. Okay. They're the ones who build the Wuhan Institute. Okay. Again, flip it on the other side with Virginia Benassi and these 4 different people from the University of Texas, right? Medical branch. They're the consultants at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
A 2004 merger with Sanofi?
2004.
And everyone dies. So these are recent deaths.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I can't remember when the kid died, but the kid who inherited it.
Wow.
Look at Sanofi plane crash. He died when he was like 36, but the other Sanofi died too. The one that made the merger died right after he made the merger.
No kidding.
Yeah.
The children of the original Sanofi kind of thing, huh?
The inheritors.
Wow.
Yeah. Look at plane crash with Sanofi, right after the merger, and look at the original Sanofi that signed the deal. Yeah, the ink's not dry and the plane's crashing. So
fascinating stuff.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, somebody has got to go in and find Dr. Livingston and got to get to the truth in Piketon, right? And then has got to get out and tell the world, right? That's what this is. Who is very afraid of Virginia in China? Because that's going to be the story. Now, Is Virginia being sent in on missions of mercy? I believe she is. I believe the one thing that Virginia Benassi is dedicated to doing is making sure that people sign up for this adept, because she's sold on the adept system. And I was sold on, when working with Microsoft, working with printers, working with plotters, I was sold on Microsoft coming out with better printer drivers and plotter drivers too, right? That doesn't make me a virus vaccine guy, but it does make Bill Gates a virus vaccine guy. So understand what we're saying. We're not saying the implementers and the hands and feet people that are down in the lower trenches are bad guys. We're saying the guys at the top who are buying 12 CRISPR companies and then CRISPRing in this crap that never could possibly happen in history, which now the Senate testimony that people coming in from the Senate committees are now confirming 16 months, 17 months later, right? We're saying it's the Gateses. It's the Supreme Allied Commanders like James Jones, who tried to AII or ShadowNet the 2016 election. He also worked with Manafort. That was one of the things Berge could never figure out. How is he working with Manafort? Right? How are they working with Stone? How are they so tied in with Manafort and Stone? I said, both ends against the middle. Anybody who goes to Washington, drain the swamp, is either going to be dead or their brother's going to be dead, when the election cycle comes, or their kids are going to leave the door open, to their kids' room, showing that the room was violated while they were sleeping. There's ways that send messages to Trump that says you're not going to be president in the second round. Again, I'm not out here to bang the drum for all the Trump's performance in Wellington. I didn't like, actually. There's a lot of immigration stuff. There's a lot of Second Amendment stuff. I think it would have been great if we would talk more about jobs, because he did great for Ohio in jobs.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. I'm playing it down the middle. I'm just saying that he was trying to drain the swamp. That's one thing that I think he was actually trying to do, other than jobs in Ohio and Michigan.
Back to both ends against the middle, right? And to Patrick Berge, who we do appreciate and love over here, even though I don't think he wants to hang with us. I tried to get him on, and he was like, so everybody loves Millie more, I guess, but whatever, we love Patrick Berge and everything over here. And what does he always say? He says, we brought the Sunni and Shiite together. We brought the Sunni and Shiite together, and that was through fake Facebook accounts and fake Twitter accounts and, giving them all, free data and free cell phones, and then making fake accounts and, making a fake Sunni account and a fake Shiite account and, feeding them with, these narratives, right? And working both ends there. And then they did it in Egypt. They did it in Yemen. They did it in, maybe not Yemen. They did it, what was the other? Tunisia, all these other places where the Arab Spring occurred. And now they're here in America playing both ends against the middle with, fake IIA characters on both sides, right? You got your Democrat IIA characters. You got your Republican IIA characters. And the middle has no idea what's going on. And that's the strategy of tension, all these years later, is IAA for everyone, right? There's a Smith-Mundt modernization package for you, no matter who you are or what side you're on. Smith-Mundt's got you covered. So it's,
yeah.
What are you looking at? You guys see some comments?
I'm looking at the comments, and I'm looking at the time. I didn't realize I'd waxed on so poetically.
No, I had us going 15 minutes talking to ourselves at the beginning there.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So that's part of the program why we're 2:00 and not to the 2-hour mark. Sorry, everybody.
Well,
I'm learning still.
People are making comments about the Dutch parliament and its constitutional republic and whatnot. But I'm just saying that the royal family that Kissinger had such a grip on, living with Prince Willem and all that, and or practically in it, not bathing him every day, but I'm just saying close enough that he could bathe him on a daily basis, and then God, with the Queen Maxima's dad, I mean,
Zorreguieta.
Yeah,
Jorge Zorreguieta.
They tested every Mengele bioweapon known to man down there in Chile. So this
Argentina.
Argentina,
yeah.
They did in Chile too, but Chile, but Argentina.
Chile was kind of like the Prussians before the war, like there was a lot of Prussian stuff in Chile and all that. And then after the war seemed kind of more like, Argentina in a sense, but there's that whole Colonia Dignidad location there, which I believe is in Chile, which had a lot of Nazis.
Oh, the colony. Yeah, they did the movie, the colony about that. Yeah,
and Chile and Argentina, whichever one you want to say. But you want to do yourself out in Noblesville at Borg Warner? One of our final stops. That was a little bonus stop that we made.
I'm just saying that there are companies that are left over in the United States and in Indianapolis here. There's one of them. Borg Warner's obviously based in Auburn Hills. Dave Underdown took us out there.
Right. The headquarters is in Auburn Hills near us here in Michigan. And then this is a supplementary location of theirs.
But near Cummins Engine here, where you had the diesels, you needed turbo diesels, right? And so this is probably, I told Aaron, I said it's probably filled with, in its day, turbochargers. Now with an electronic injection, you don't need the turbochargers as much. But Borg Warner was known for the IndyCar turbochargers. And this was, the tanks. Warren, Ohio, I think still makes the Abrams tank. And you needed the oomph, to get up the hill. Otherwise you're not getting over the hill, and you're going to be a target, and your tank is going to be 800 degrees in a few seconds, right? So a turbocharger really does make a difference if you're trying to get up a hill and live. And so that's why you're probably here with Borg Warner.
And if you're trying to drive some Club K missiles around in a Kamaz truck, and you need that heavy chassis to be able to handle the kaboom of the missile. And same kind of thing.
And
right.
And I have massive evidence. I don't have task forces files. I don't know where anybody went. I don't know what companies, but I know she knew Roger Krona, and I know she knew Leidos, and she was on the light. She had received death threats from Leidos out by the airport, Dulles Airport, Chantilly. I got Leidos. There was a national reconnaissance organization that had moved from downtown on M Street, where we had talked about, and they moved out to Chantilly. That's again near Centreville, right, where the White Russian girls were. And that's the group that was threatening task force. They were into space. Remember, Leidos has Scott Clotworthy's hand in the Unha rocket. Telling you, this is still the Nazi organization. Krona still speaks Nazi. Okay, he doesn't speak German. He speaks Nazi. Okay, he's in the Space Alliance still down at Neupeenemünde, right? Neupeenemünde is known by Americans as Cape Canaveral, right? This is the guy who was the understudy of Bissell, the guy with the Health Alteration Committee. This was the Nazi poisoners in chief that Gottlieb writes about to make sure the Nazis got instituted into our national laboratories. They killed their way in, folks, because they killed their way in Germany. This is not new. They did this same methodology in Germany. Night of the Long Knives, gradual confidence operation, get everybody's name, who's on our side, who's not. Then boom, all at once, Night of the Long Knives, right? Same thing with January 6th here in the United States. It's over and over again. Let George develop, sell 20,000 books on Amazon, let him write 42 books, find out how everybody's going to buy them. Then boom, Night of the Long Knives, January 1st. July 1st. We don't want to go into a July 4th holiday where everybody tells them, their friends, you should go on to George Webb. He's got it all. I mean, 17 months ago, he had this whole thing with the lab leak and the super spreader event that Prosovic just tweeted out about. Hey, he was back there. 60 Minutes went after him and everything. He had all of these Benassis. He had all the NATO guys. That's old stuff, man. 18 months ago. They could not let that happen. They came out with the Ed Henry story. Why a year later does he decide to sue after he loses his job? Just happened to be on the July 4th weekend. Why does Strzok release the Seth Rich, Peter Strzok stuff on the weekend is heavily redacted my 4th weekend? They just don't want to take the chance. They don't want to take the chance. Go ahead. Let's do Noblesville. This is why we're there.
I was about to do Ed Henry again, but you're right. There's no need. We wish Ed Henry well. Of course, there's no.
No, of course I do, but it's not going to result in anything. You're not
right at the end. Mr. Henry. Okay, what happened? Yeah, these guys.
You're not going to the Journalism Hall of Fame, depending on what happens.
Like, what did we find out from Sandman? And of course he was.
Wouldn't you like to see a Journalism Hall of Fame right next to the basketball?
Yeah, right. Wouldn't that be something?
On that hill there.
But your discovery saves the world. Your discovery helps others. These other guys who
root out the Nazis, right?
Even if it doesn't save the world, even if I'm speaking in hyperbole, right? Your discovery helps others. These guys, even though we wish them well in their lawsuits, their discovery process helps them be protected and more secure in whatever areas they need to, your discovery process opens up a number of important areas of interest to billions of people, millions of people. So it's different discovery processes very much, and it's a different kind
Better
of case.
than McDonald's, more than a billion served.
It is definitely a different kind of case, but
bigger than McDonald's.
Well, whatever, yeah. But we will go to Noblesville. We'll do a little Twitter from Noblesville. We'll wind down here too. We'll wind down about 5 minutes and prepare for tomorrow's show and the rest of the week and book printing and everything ahead. But we bring you to beautiful Noblesville, Indiana, with George outside the Borg Warner office there.
And actually Noblesville, Indiana, and here we are at Borg Warner Corporation. You may remember Borg Warner. Borg Warner, I think they used to do turbochargers for Indy cars, so we're not far from the Indy 500 Brickyard here. But you may also remember a guy by the name of Roger Corona. Roger Corona, Krone, speaks perfect German, by the way. He's the CEO of a company called Leidos, and he's also in the Space Alliance down there in Neupeenemünde, down in Cape Canaveral. And he's got a guy who works for him who seems to love to bring in Russian GRU Okonoslurs, these beautiful Ukrainian girls. And his name is Paul Whelan. Paul Whelan's the guy who's flying around seemingly back and forth between Sault Ste. Marie and the middle part of Michigan, bringing in these Russian spy girls. Okay, so why is Borg Warner lending their private jet to a convicted felon and somebody who was drummed out of the Marine Corps, guy who's recruiting snipers everywhere he goes? And he could be with 4 different passports. Remember, he has 4 different passports, Paul Whelan. He could be all 4 legs of a bioweapons route that goes all the way to South Africa and their bioweapons program. He's got the U.S. passport and a State Department Armed Diplomatic Security Services passport. That gets him to Canada. He has a Canadian passport, so he can travel freely to Europe and other NATO countries. He has an UK passport, so he has the European community that he can be involved in, and he can be getting Five Eyes money to fund his projects. He also has an Irish passport, which allows him to fly to South Africa, where we know he recruited various snipers and so forth. And it could be that he has the chemical weapons. It could be. Still could be the 2 other Ukrainians, Parnas and Fruman. Or it could be some other armed diplomatic security services person. But we have to ask the question for the people who are the shareholders of Borg Warner. How is it that a convicted Russian person who was in Russia, convicted of espionage, flying your corporate jet, flying spies in and out of the United States? Has anyone ever checked into Roger Corona and Leidos about this use of the company plane?
No, they probably have not checked in, have they?
Well, and while he's using the company plane, he's also the deputy sheriff of Chelsea. You know where Chelsea is?
A little south of Ann Arbor there. Nice
right.
Little bedroom community south of Ann Arbor.
Yeah, and that's a little weird, don't you think? I mean, and
I think him working in Columbine as a mass shooter consultant is a lot more weird, frankly. Now that, but a lot of weirdness, yes.
I know people want to talk about the goaltender. Oh yeah, and I don't know if he was playing that day. When I shot the hockey being played at, I went to the hockey.
This rink. Happened recently. I'm seeing this in the comments. That's the Columbus
last
Blue
night. Yeah, last night he was killed.
The guys at the rink when we stopped by the rink was just like juniors. He was not.
Well, he died in Novi. That's the only reason why I think people thought he.
Really?
Yeah. And he.
This is news today, maybe on ESPN, huh? We don't usually look at ESPN for news articles in our community, but that would be somewhere to find this, huh? Interesting.
Well, he had played in Riga and Riga, Latvia.
Well, let's not start on.
I'm not starting.
No,
I'm just saying I don't know anything about this. I don't know if he was playing when I went there or not. If he was
struck by fireworks, it says.
Yeah, I have no idea. So
I don't believe he would. I mean, that was a whole different crowd, that day when we were going through there. Yeah, but
it is interesting. I have no idea, but I do know it does seem like it is a. it does seem like it is going to be the Novi story now. Because when I was in Novi for the 3 days, I was walking all around talking to everybody. Hey, do you know about this story where they're bringing in the State Department guy is bringing in the guy with the 4 passports, bringing in all these Russian spy girls? No, never heard of it. Oh yeah. He was on the Novi Police Department. He was assistant. He was the deputy sheriff in Chelsea. He was on the Columbine Police Department. He had 3 different gun distributorships bringing in AK-47s into the United States. I mean, if somebody's bringing in AK-47s, some people say that the Stephen, what's his name, in Paddock, bought his weapons or was buying his weapons from Legion, which was his company out in Las Vegas. Paul Whelan's company in Vegas. The Kingsmead Arsenal. Was there any follow-up on that in Novi? No. How about the arsenal that he had? Has any reporter other than me actually gone to the arsenal that he had in Florida? Right where the Blackstone Express has the trucking company. I'm like, how is this possible? How is the State Department person possible to have all these connections with all these different armories in the United States and nobody report about it? The guy gets put away in Russia for 20 years. Wouldn't you think if let's say Russia had these old bioweapons places and somebody was going to pay them $1 million for the coronavirus or $1 million for the antidote. And they used Paul Whelan to courier in with Krylova and Bogacheva into Ann Arbor. It's right there with Ann Arbor. They had Eastern Michigan University. I went out there with Dave Underdown. We're right there at what's the airport there?
Willow Run.
And they're flying in and out of Willow Run on Zantop Airlines. The father, this is Task Force's research. The father lives there. Both of them had passports. They've been coming and going people have been coming and going using those 2 passports for 20 years. Okay. Rod Rosenstein's 12 girls. They're in the Rod Rosenstein indictment. How was I 10 months ahead of Rod Rosenstein? Because I ran the names with Task Force 10 months before and found out 2 of the girls weren't coming into the United States, and the State Department slipped up. They had U.S. passports. That's why they got in to Louisiana. What part of Toxic Cloud? I think it was Tyrone that asked me. Somebody in our New Orleans shred asked me the same thing that Task Force asked me. What part of Toxic Cloud don't you understand? What part of Toxic Cloud being released from an oil facility don't you understand? It's not uranium. If you're a Rockefeller and you want to clear the area around your refinery, you don't put refineries where there isn't oil, by the way. I went all over in the bayou there, and there's oil refineries everywhere. There's an alligator, there's an oil refinery, little pumps, with little storage tanks, and somebody comes around later and drains them and takes them into the big one, takes them into the offshore oil thing. But you put the oil refinery there, well, if you want farmers to get sick, when they start cracking, and you remember when you crack it, you go in high temp. When you crack for aviation fuel, especially, you crack at high temperatures, and then all sorts of stuff comes out. And another farmer sitting on oil died. Thank God Dick Cheney's out there ready with an offer to the widow. And what part? Task Force asked me, what part of Toxic Cloud don't you understand? What part of Toxic? If you ran I said this to Aaron, if you ran all 12 of those people, like 10 of them were in oil. One of the guys worked for the State Department of Lands in California and managed the area for our Navy strategic supply in Elk Grove. I mean, wouldn't he know the plume? Wouldn't he know where the reserves are? Wouldn't he know how to drill in, crooked drilling? I think they drained that thing dry. The reason why Trump filled up the tank at the end of his administration, remember when he said, well, we bought everything for, because it was so cheap, filled up the tank, is they drove the price down on the spot market. You can do that in a day. Then you run into Trump. You say, hey, let's fill up the tank. Why would you want Trump to fill up the tank? Because you want to cover the fact you've drained it.
Yep. Can I throw a little
Sure.
research metadata out here at the end? Where you got me going on this goalie now from Latvia.
Sure.
A few things that are of interest that I've learned recently. The Michigan National Guard and Latvia are in partnership. I learned this when we were studying Serbia and how Serbia and Ohio have a partnership where they, strengthen, the whole like sister city, with the militaries and the National Guards thing. So Michigan and Latvia are partners in this program that, partners up states with different, like European militaries to do training and stuff. So, and the Latvian guys were just in town. I mean, like it was, a couple weeks ago that Latvia had a whole contingent here in Michigan doing, all sorts of, military stuff. And then the Latvian goalie dies.
Go back to my thing. It's on the board. I walk by the board. I point at the board.
Here, we'll play that. We'll play that. Let's play that.
This is before the guy dies. I remember mentioning Latvia.
Right, Latvia's right there. That's what I'm thinking. Like, this guy would have played at that rink.
All of his friends would have been there.
If he's 24 and he's in the NHL, no doubt when he was 17, I'm sure he was amazing, and he would have been, playing here at the rink. And it's actually in Northville, Michigan.
It's in Northville,
right? George stayed in Novi, like
I walked 5 miles in Northville. Dave, I walked 5 miles in Northville. I now know it's Northville.
It feels like a long way when you're walking, but for Paul Wellen, when he was driving, his Corvette or his Lambo,
it's a couple of miles from Novi.
Right. So for Paul Wellen, it was a 5-minute drive over to the hockey rink, but for George, it was a long walk.
But I'm just saying, you would have security. You would have armed diplomatic security services people guarding these people coming and going. Yeah, and you would have nobody touching the bags as your plane landed, your Zantop Airlines plane or your Borg Warner plane. Wouldn't hockey be a great way to cover this? I mean, Aaron put this together. It's just like, hey, they're flying into Ypsilanti.
I mean, this is, international, just international sport. I actually thought of it back when you were doing research on the soccer. You were talking all about the FIFA soccer and all the ways they were infiltrating athletes through the soccer with Paul Wellen. And I'm like, well, he's got a hockey rink down the street from his house where all the international players come.
Don't touch my bags if you please.
How many Russian equipment managers does it take to sharpen a pair of skates,
I don't know if Borg Warner, I don't know if Paul Wellen ever used the Borg Warner plane, but I've got him on a plane, on the Borg Warner plane, with Sault Ste. Marie as the takeoff point and then Ypsilanti as the landing point behind him on the chart, your trip. And I've got him in front of the U.S. State Department saying Armed Diplomatic Security Services with pictures. What part of this doesn't seem like a diplomatic trip under diplomatic cover? Those big hockey duffel bags they have?
A lot of stuff can fit in there, I'm
just saying. Come on, man.
Equipment managers, but we'll go to the hockey rink here, and our thoughts and prayers do go out to the Latvian goalie. I did not know anything about this, but just it is amazing, how you can kind of prepare the research and then things happen, and it's like wow, But here we are at the hockey rink where the gentleman, would have played some of his games when he was younger.
Here in Plymouth, Michigan, really close to Novi, just over the border, and this is the USA Hockey Center where the USA hockey team plays. As you can see, they're doing camp right now. We have Finland playing Sweden here in a couple of days, so a lot of the national hockey teams. But you can see if you were trying to get guys from the old Russian intelligence services who may have had a background in bioweapons or missile technology, or let's say they knew how to make a Kamaz tractor or wanted to know how to make a Kamaz missile tractor, you could encourage them to come here with this as a draw, with this hockey rink here as a draw. Athletes can travel back and forth without question, usually get visas easily and so forth. So that would be the way Paul Wellen might have used this. Now, we know Paul Wellen did actually recruit both hockey players and soccer players. So this was his thing. But you can see here, this would be a very attractive way to recruit foreign sports authorities or foreign sports stars. And the same thing is true for recruiting the women who live in those locations. Women's hockey is also pretty big as well. So here you have it. You can see all the different countries that are coming and going all the time. You've got Latvia.
Latvia.
I remember it was the first one I looked at.
Maxwell exfiltrating technology. Canada, Switzerland, Finland, Latvia, Belarus, Germany, Russia. You've got all the places where you could recruit the Oconus lures right here in Novi, right here where Paul Whelan had his stock and trade, bringing people back and forth from these countries. Now, why is this important? Because as the Soviet Union is collapsing and different places like Novogorsk and other places that have chemical weapons plants are closing down, those become available. Coronavirus plants, various other technologies, and now we can bring them in here in the United States under the cover of an athletic cover, in this case, diplomatic cover at the State Department, is, of course, the other one that he used with Kelly Services.
Well, yeah, we don't know anything per se about this goalie or what could have gone on.
No, and
it's
the
a fireworks accident.
The
like
mobster says it best. He may have known people on the team, and again, we don't know, but Latvia is one of those Balkan states, or not Balkan, it's the Baltic states, excuse me, up there in the North Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Balkans are in Greece, but they are, Riga, Latvia, you got Lithuania, you've got Estonia. These are the little aircraft carriers. These are the little aircraft carriers on the front line in Poland as well. That Peter Strzok, right, is the one who's pushing the bioweapons. Remember, the bioweapons attack was the first time bioweapons were really used effectively to stop an infantry, barrage. Well, not the first time, but the first time the Strucks used it was in the Iran-Iraq War, right? It was used before Halabja, I believe. Before it was used on civilians, there was a big Iranian push. And what they wanted was a kind of a homeostasis between Saddam Hussein and Iran to deplete both. They were selling jets to both sides, guys. They're selling F-4s over here. They're selling F-16s, F-15s, F-14s. They're selling a lot of jets in this war, right? You blow up everybody else's jets, they got to buy more jets. Saddam Hussein at the end was trying to get Mirage jets. I think that's what ended the wars. They went through all the American jets. That's what ended the war. But anyway, so I'm not saying but the strategy, and I can't remember what the program is, the NATO program with bioweapons, but the big strategy with the Richard Luger centers, doing all the amplification. Look at Luger centers in Latvia. Look at Lithuania. Look at Estonia. I've been to Tallinn. I tell you, that's all NATO now. It's like den of iniquity going to there. And is that where all these, we don't tend to think about the North Sea very often. We don't tend to think about the Baltic states very often. Baltic Avenue on Webopoly is the first thing that you just kind of go, you miss. But it is true that if you're gonna sideline weapons, like say bioweapons, for an attack in the United States, you might be able to get stores from the front lines. And this really pissed off Putin because we did a store and forward and move this stuff up to the line, because you always hear the saber rattling. Oh, Putin's coming with the tanks. The only way we can stop it is with the bioweapons. We have to stop it with the bioweapons. That's what the Richard Luger centers are all about. We went to, Richard Luger's office, basically, at the Soldiers and Sailors Monument there. So this is all about Richard Luger. And, I think Task Force is going to be right. With Andre Carson being a front man and Mir and the Islamic Society of North America all being a front for this bioweapon business in Indiana, I think she's going to be right. Well, I tempted to give you some Chabad Lubavitch fun facts here.
Okay, go ahead.
We always love our Chabad Lubavitch fun facts, right?
Andy's not here.
Aaron's taken over with Chabad Lubavitch here.
Andy's not here. Not here. So you can do Chabad Lubavitch. Anytime we get on Chabad Lubavitch, Andy goes, come on, Aaron, let's go.
Kolomoisky does own your town, but I just found it while we're talking about Latvia. Remember the story I told you about how the 6th Chabad Rebbe was escaped by Bormann but how the Nazis got him out of Warsaw, right?
Warsaw. And you know why? They say, they're not going to get on the trains, right? He's going to go into the Warsaw in the ghetto, right? Wasn't the 6th Rebbe going to be in the ghetto?
He was going to be in the ghetto, and he didn't want to leave.
He was going to say, well, we're going to, make a last stand here. Remember?
Here, I'll put us on screen and then I'll read it.
The last Rebbe, the last Chabad Lubavitch guy. Remember, it wasn't always Chabad Lubavitch. It was just Chabad until they got kicked out of Lubavitch. Never ever let somebody sell you on it's just Chabad,
because they all got kicked out of Lubavitch. All right. They were Chabad way before they were Lubavitch. Okay. Let's just get that straight. But I'm just saying this guy was going to have the massacre in Warsaw. And they were going to go to the last man. And of course they kidnapped the Rebbe. And the Rebbes, right, have been working with the Nazis ever since. When was the Warsaw Ghetto? It was like 39, 40, right? This is a long time ago, folks.
We did this weekend, George and I, driving in the car. But part of the story that I left out was Riga, Latvia. Riga, Latvia plays an integral part of the story that I left out. So here, I'll just read through the Latvia part, right? Okay. Following Nazi Germany's attack against Poland in 1939, Rabbi Schneerson refused to leave Warsaw. The government of the United States of America, which was still neutral, used its diplomatic relations to convince Nazi Germany to rescue Schneerson from the war zone in German-occupied Poland. He remained in the city during the bombardments and its capitulation to Nazi Germany. He gave the full support of his organization to assist as many Jews as possible to flee the invading armies. With the intercession of the United States State Department in D.C. and with the lobbying of many Jewish leaders such as Jacob Rootstein on behalf of the Rebbe, and reputedly also with the help of Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, who is a big Nazi. Canaris, and the head of Abwehr, which you've taught us about. Abwehr, and he was finally granted diplomatic immunity and given safe passage to go via Berlin to Riga, Latvia, where the Rebbe was a citizen and which was still free, and then on to New York City, where he arrived in March 1940. And New York City has been the capital of Chabad Lubavitch since then. And that's why, they're not really Lubavitch anymore. They're basically Chabad New York City at this point. If you want to call them something.
I got a confession to make. This is kind of fun. We're going to do a marathon, right?
Yeah, we're going. I mean, we started late.
Yeah. So I have a confession. So I'm in Tallinn, okay, in Estonia, the neighboring country.
Okay, right.
And I'm there because there's these. I can't say exactly what company I'm working for, but they're using an Oracle database. And the problem with Oracle is it fires up a Java machine, a virtual machine, a JVM. It fires up a JVM to handle a certain number of people that are online. And that's like you can have one JVM, 50, 80 users. The way Oracle has its listener, it's a shoemaker type, okay. Design. So anyway, I'm just saying you have these JVMs. Well, if you're doing online gambling and online gaming, you get thousands and thousands and thousands of people playing simultaneously. And so you got JVMs coming out of your ears.
Okay.
Well, the problem with JVMs, that's all well and good. But when every once in a while, you have to get rid of your JVMs, sort of like, you clean up after the kid's birthday party, but then there's just garbage everywhere after the kid's birthday party.
Well, this is virtual garbage.
Yeah. You're at Chuck E. Cheese, right? You have to do what they call garbage collection. They actually call it garbage collection. I was with this company. I can't say which one. And so you have to do garbage collection. Well, if you don't clean up the Chuck E. Cheese after the kids throw up everywhere and everything, you can't bring the next set of kids in. You know what I mean? You got to do the garbage collection. And the thing we did was we cleaned garbage up really fast so that you could bring the more kids into Chuck E. Cheese. Anybody who's been to Chuck E. Cheese knows
it's kind of like clearing your cookies away from that. You would clear the cookies.
But I'm
faster.
talking about,
yeah.
You got garbage everywhere. Sure. You cannot use it. Okay. That memory is gone until you get in and bring another JVM in. Well, the company we were dealing with, it was in Tallinn, Estonia. And they were doing online gambling. And, you ask the guys, well, what is your big competition? And they say Gibraltar. Our other big competition, because it's a British protectorate. If you look it up, Gibraltar is a British protectorate, no laws. It's not like they have a governor general, but something really close to that. So it's like, it's the next thing, the mafia. You can't be arrested if they steal all your money one day. And the whole thing they did was float. They say, we play a 50-50 game. We just hold everybody's winnings. And the thing is, you don't realize you're not getting a payout because you stay in the game. You just keep your money, your virtual money there, and you stay in the game. And then we just make all our money on the float. Okay. And I didn't know if they were trading in Libors or whatever in the overnight market, but you get the idea here. Just look at online gaming and the big places. And Tallinn was like where these Chabad Lubavitch guys, it was Ukrainian mafia was who ran it.
Yeah, that's.
when you said that, I said, wait a minute, I remember this. This happened in Estonia. So I'm wondering if there's this Ukrainian mafia because see
I think Chabad. I mean, Chabad is the Ukrainian mafia in a way. Certainly, Ukraine would be, like their epicenter, right? Like the Menorah Center, which is, the home
that's
base.
the top of the pale, and
right?
You got Ukraine at the bottom of the pale, right?
Right, and you're talking. I mean, yes, they have a big contingent in Riga, Latvia, and Estonia, and everything up there.
Because it's paths to the sea. If you look at Hitler going through Poland, right, and then pressing through to Warsaw, and then takes a right turn at what? Ukraine. Why? Not because Hitler's stupid. He knows that's where the Polesti oil fields are, and he also knows that's where the Black Sea is, and that's your route to the Mediterranean.
Absolutely.
Right. You got to turn right at Warsaw. The other thing is you got to turn right at Warsaw to get up to Gdansk. Right. And Murmansk and all that. No, Murmansk is way on the other side. But to get up to Gdansk and then on into the Baltics, you got to take a left. Right. And who did they put in as the kind of stay behind mafia? Right. After World War II, with all the stay behind armies, it was all these Ukrainian mafia types, use Ukrainian Nazi guys, the Banderas organization. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
and who's the guy left over putting all these factories in and so forth to make all these weapons? Kissinger and Struck in all these same countries where they had the stay behind armies that were making weapons going back to, Colby, same families. I visited some of them in Czechoslovakia. I visited some of them in Hungary. Right. It's the weapons manufacturing belt. Bulgaria. We did a thing on Arsenal, little small factories. We were talking about going through Ohio, and you run into CNC machine shops in the most unlikely places.
Yeah,
you got a barn and a raised floor. You got enough room for a CNC if you run 220 out there. Who cares about noxious fumes? The cows,
Some interesting stuff going on clandestinely out here in the Midwest, but and it always has been, from what George has been able to teach us. But sorry for the Chabad Lubavitch tangent there, but we start talking Riga, Latvia, and I just can't stop myself. I guess
hold the phone. let's not. Everybody says, "Oh, no one would ever run that. No one would ever do that with the overseas with the DoD, and then run those same terrorists in the United States." Right? That this Baltic stuff is so far away from our kin, our experience. Well, I'll give you an exception. How about the Tsarnaevs? How about the Chechenian groups that were in Latvia and Lithuania and Estonia and Eastern Poland that end up doing the bombing? They're kill teams that are brought in the United States. They kill everybody. They killed the previous kill team that they had, that they were going up against. I think they use, I'm not saying I think they use poisons. I don't think, heart attack drugs and so forth. But then they put them out on the street and sell them. Why do you think they went house to house trying to find the Tsarnaevs? No search warrants whatsoever. They shut Boston down trying to find the Tsarnaevs. Right? And who's married to the Tsarnaev? Tsarnaev's uncle is married to.
Tsarnaevs did the Boston bombing. For those who don't know, that was the Boston bombing, the Boston Marathon bombing.
But the uncle to the Tsarnaevs was married to the guy who wrote the whole plan for Gladio.
Really?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Wow.
The whole plan for Gladio, starting at the Baltic and going all the way to the Black Sea. All right. And this, you remember, made the Iron Curtain speech from the, what is it? From the moorings of Gdansk all the way to the, the something in Trieste. An Iron Curtain has fallen. Right? Right? It's all my weapons factories that I plan to ship, stay behind armies. But who was the guy? I did this story in 2016 with Gulen. Gulen was the front man for all these weapons into Central Asia. He's a CIA guy. CIA.
Well, it ain't Cofer Black.
Work with Gulen.
You're not going to forget Cofer Black. That's
his
for sure.
sister. This guy who wrote the Stay Behind Gladio B with. Oh God, I should ask Sibel about this when I saw Sibel. The guy who the guy whose sister was married to this uncle of the Tsarnaevs back there as the recruiting organization. I'm telling you what, okay, task force was right about this. The FBI and Robin still wasn't, Robin Gritz, the FBI agent that had this great friendship at the end of task force's life, still didn't believe this. But you can ask Robin about this. She was on this. Peter Strzok that was the end of the FBI. Because what they were going to do is they were going to split the FBI. They were going to split the FBI. They were going to take over the counterintelligence group in the FBI. They're going to put Peter Strzok Jr. in there as a 24-year-old, and he's going to do this questionnaire from hell, right? Where you had to criminalize yourself. You know, have you ever smoked marijuana? If you say no, 5 years because you lied. If you say yes, you can't be in our group. So they had this kind of prisoner's dilemma type questionnaire, and they only brought in their people. Peter Strzok sitting in the Washington field office building. It's all boarded up now still. They're going to destroy the Washington field office because of all the people that have been in and out of there with the DNA. You mark my words. They'll never use the FBI building again on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Well, they'll say, because of January 6th and threats to the Republic, we're moving the office over to Greenbrier, West Virginia for.
We did a story out there. I can't remember who I went out there with. We went out to Maryland, out by Green Belt. And there's a radio tower, and people maybe remember when I did the show out there. That was one of the sites they were going to move the FBI to because it's on a hill, and they could enclose it and make it a castle type of thing.
Well,
but anyway,
yeah.
Strzok had the plan for George Bush to fractionate the FBI by going in the counterintelligence. This was Rod Rosenstein's plan. Somebody mentioned Rod Rosenstein was an assistant to Mueller going all the way back to his Harvard law days, or when he was the prosecutor for 1 year for, I think he was a murder. He had the murder beat. Anyway, Rod Rosenstein was an assistant. And anyway, they were going to put all these CIA guys in there to the counter intel. And eventually that would take over the Washington, D.C. field office. And this is after McDuff, right? 93, Louis Freeh. And the person who brought Robin Gritz into the FBI was Louis Freeh. And Robin loved Louis Freeh so much, she just couldn't accept that. But these JSOC guys were telling task force, no, this is how they did it. Which Peter Strzok, he had the thing, he had the lie detector and all this. And sure enough, I found the case where one guy had taken a group of 12 guys who were trying to become FBI agents and had filed a class action. Then it turned out the guy was working for the 7th Fleet. He was working out of Seattle for the 7th Fleet. And it was one of these Star Wars systems. And we interviewed the guy in Washington, D.C. who was working on the Star Wars systems. It was the chicken overlay system for, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember a lot of episodes.
I don't remember that one. I can't recall off the top of my head. Maybe somebody in the chat remembers who that could be.
It was the satellite positioning. What he said is racks and racks and racks and racks of computers. And they were trying to do the geolocation of different things, all ships at sea and things in the air and so forth. Anyway, the key is that guy had done the lawsuit, and it was a real story. And I had confirmed the task force story that they had tried to split the FBI. And they also were the same people who had done the stay behind weapons in Europe. Same group.
Well, I think they've succeeded, frankly.
Yeah,
I think the FBI does not seem like. I mean, can we defund the FBI yet?
The same infiltration strategy. The big idea here is the same CIA infiltration strategy to get in the police departments of Eastern Europe and use those as a back channel for weapons to build a stay behind organization was the same exact thing they used in the United States. They first got the FBI. They created JTTF as the infiltration mechanism. And then they went county by county by county, and then major city by major city by major city.
That's how Andre Carson got his start, right? Oh, this will be a good one. This will be a good little servitor over here, right?
Kate Hempstead.
Graham Fuller. Nice.
Graham Fuller. And the daughter was married to Samantha, married to the uncle of the Tsarnaevs. Now, how the hell does that happen? You're saying, well, the the Tsarnaevs, known terrorists, known bioweapons terrorists, right? They were known to be assassins, bioweapons assassins, right? How did they get into the United States? How did their partner, who trained with the Tsarnaevs in Virginia, I think slightly over the border in Virginia, actually at the Blackwater camp just slightly over the border, but kids think they're in Virginia, right? He was the one who ended up dying in a bomb in Syria. He was blown up in Syria. You know who else trained with them? The two Tsarnaevs and the kid who was blown up in Syria that trained with the Tsarnaevs at the Blackwater camp was the guy who tried to kill Trump in Las Vegas. The guy who tried to kill Trump in Las Vegas had also trained with the Tsarnaevs at the Blackwater camp. Do you know who else tried to kill Trump? Remember when the guy rushed the stage at Dayton?
No.
And he grabbed Trump's ankle
Uh-huh.
at the Dayton airport. He grabbed Trump's ankle. That guy had at Wright State. He had a terrorist training and recruiting organization at Wright State. It's here, folks. It's not imaginary. The Somali kids that they bring in that are all from the war-torn situations in Columbus, that's Peter Strzok's deal as well. Minnesota, where they did it and where they had all the firebombing around there in the Riverview area, Peter Strzok's operation again.
Peter Strzok is the reason that Minneapolis is the second largest Somali community outside of Somalia in the world.
And when they get one of their gun runners and one of their gun runnees or one of the cops overseeing them makes a screw up, they end up saying it's police brutality, and they end up making one of them a hero, and then they make the other one a goat. They both lose. One guy dies and the other guy gets put in jail, and then the FBI gets more money. Isn't that exactly what happened with Darren Chauvin and George Floyd?
And America gets a summer of love.
And America gets a summer of love.
This is we are in the middle of summer by now, huh? We just had 4th of July. This is about a much more loving summer than last summer.
Oh yeah.
In some ways, I guess. I don't,
Four book sales. I love the metadata here because the reason why we have books to sell, Aaron, the reason why we have books to sell is because Virginia, we can't afford to send the 4 books to the WHO in Geneva.
Well,
which I love that.
We hope they're reading. We hope you're reading over there, everybody at the WHO. We don't have any hard feelings against you guys. We just want you to be the best WHO you can be.
Love you to death. Love you to death.
But should I play us out with something here? I guess
I'm all of a sudden having fun. Here's one reason I can have fun with you. Right?
We all have fun together. Andy's fun too. But
Andy's a barrel of laughs.
I watched the channel a little more for a few years than Andy did before you guys met.
But Andy says that's it. He says 2 hours and we got to go.
Yeah,
and I'm with him more normally.
No, me too. I've been that bumpy start at the beginning. We owe everybody a little extra because we started so late and they hung with us.
Riverside. Somebody made a comment. It's Riverside, not Riverview. Riverside. but again, all these places, Aaron, we visited.
Yeah. Oh, you've been everywhere, man.
And all these things, most of these things were done on my own dime, way before I ever, asked for a dime. So yeah, Gulan, state sponsored. Gulan was behind this. Right? Gulan worked directly. And remember, you were saying you went to Michigan before you went to DC. Remember, you were asking me that in the car.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
it was a far one, in Detroit, and he was recruiting all these Detroit doctors, and they had the network of Javid doctors in Detroit. They were testing all these wacky cancer remedies. Remember, they were going through all these. There was this one Dr. Death.
Well, and they had across the river in Ontario too. And it's just like there's your 2 control groups. You got Canada, you got America.
Look at Dr. Death, because these are I can use. Look at
Kevorkian.
No.
Okay,
Dr. Death in Michigan. He was a cancer doctor, and he had.
Dr. Death is Kevorkian. It's going to be tough to type in Dr. Death.
Michigan, same Michigan cancer doctor.
But Kevorkian's from Michigan. That's why. It's,
well,
I'll find him here. Maybe we'll find him. But in general, yes, having you back home sweet home in Michigan, and fighting for freedom for our state and our nation here in Michigan is a great thing. And it is a big part of where your story began back when you. When Cy Hirsch told you to hit the road, Michigan was one of your first stops. So
somebody Lovecat FOIA'd all the Robin Gritz documents.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. So, and she got the disc.
Best community of researchers on the internet right here. All you guys and us and the whole team here. We love doing this with you guys every day. It is an honor and an inspiration. And
look at Dr. Ahmed. Ahmed. Was it Dr. Ahmed? I remember he wasn't a med. He wasn't a med. He was anything but a med. But it was I thought it was Dr. Ahmed that had killed all these people. There was another guy on overdoses. I went up to 8 Mile or 10 Mile, and there was the doctor who had all these opium overdoses. They were testing high strength fentanyl.
Well, I was gonna say we could maybe go up there tomorrow. We've actually been invited to another place tomorrow, which I haven't even told you about, but it's called Under the Oaks in Jackson, Michigan, which is the birthplace of the Republican Party. They're having a anniversary event tomorrow because that's where there was actually it was an anti-slavery event being held in Jackson, Michigan in an auditorium back in like the 1800s, and then it was a hot day, so they all left the auditorium and they went under these oak trees and they started the Republican Party there as an anti-slavery party under the oak trees in Jackson, Michigan. So they're having an anniversary event that we've been invited to there. And I know, George, you're a Bernie. I don't know that we ever actually call you a Republican. You're certainly not signed up as a Republican or anything. And,
No.
You voted Bernie and all that. So I don't know that you're a Republican per se. I
want to see how, what's his name? Mike
Lindell?
No. The guy from the law firm, the DNC law firm.
Mark Elias.
I want to see with Perkins Coie. I want to see how he presents evidence to present that I'm Republican.
Oh, well, no, I guess maybe we shouldn't go tomorrow, right? Oh, George Webb was at the Republican founding anniversary event. He must be a Republican, but it is a cool event. It's supposed to maybe rain tomorrow, but we were invited to go out there and, we could cover it. And it'll just be a nice anniversary event for the Republican Party and their, inception. And it is an anti-slavery party, keep in mind, folks, so it's pretty cool. But we may go there tomorrow. We may go to Detroit. We may go to all the old haunts. So we'll see how.
So speaking of that,
mm-hmm.
You said WHO collaboration centers. I heard, one of the things I didn't show but I wrote about, and I put the thing in there, are WHO collaboration centers. You go to the who.int, the WHO collaboration centers. This is going to be where the virus got let out. Okay. Now, a lot of people say, oh, it's Galveston. It's obviously Galveston, right? There you are. There's 80 different countries that we have collaboration centers and 800 institutions. And everybody says it's going to be Galveston. That's where the Chinese burned down their consulate, right?
And that's where the Dr. McDaniel was stationed, right?
Yeah, for a while.
I mean,
but there's another collaboration center near San Antonio.
Okay.
And I know he was at Fort Sam Houston. Look at that collaboration center.
Okay. WHO collaboration center in San Antonio.
Now, there are only like 8 in the U.S. or 11 of them, and they might match up. The collaboration centers might match up. Those might be the 10 labs, right? Dr. Barrick is one of them. So if you do Dr. Barrick and WHO collaboration centers, you may find
the Dr. Barrick, he's going to be North Carolina. That's
what I'm saying. We're going to get the other 10.
Oh, you're saying this. So Dr. Barrick is one of the 11. This is 2 of the 11.
Yeah.
So once you get those 11, I mean, that's the answer to the test, everybody. Who are the 11 university collaboration labs?
Because this is where you'd have the Chinese scientists. You have to come in through the consulate, right? You're right there at the border. Peter Strzok, it's open border. You bring them in. Nobody's, here's another. And guess what? You've got this guy, this Chinese general who's built a runway out in Big Bend on the Rio Grande. He's got 13,000 acres. This Chinese general who did all the bioweapons testing on the Uyghurs, he's the guy, Aaron.
He's got a place down by Big Bend National Park.
Yes.
Like Fort Stockton, Texas.
Yes. Well, it's south of San Antonio.
South of well, it's way west of there, actually.
That's what I'm saying. It's out by Big Bend.
For sure, right.
But he's got an area.
Mm-hmm.
He did the testing on the 390 centers, the detention centers for the Uyghurs. 1 million people. This guy This Chinese general who did all the Uyghurs in Western China with all the bioweapons testing and all the, this is where they came up with the idea of a universal. They were going to use complement. They were going to take all of the antibodies that all of the different prisoners raised after they died, but they draw the blood off and they get all the different antibodies and make a super antibody mixture. I can't remember what they call it. It was like a super antibody. I think it was actually called super antibody. The movie Contagion was written by the guy who came up with the super antibody idea. That guy who's in the movie about Contagion. And I can't remember that we did a story. They wiped out all my files again.
Well, I'm looking for our general over there with the acreage. This might have to be homework for tomorrow.
But
we'll find him.
Oh, you know who did a story on it? Was Breitbart did a story.
Well, just to here, thanks to the Wall Street Journal, I guess, to throw this on screen, this article that I have, even though I'm not a big fan of the WSJ these days.
Did you see that in Reckoning Truth?
Here's
Cindy says a vial of a deadly virus missing from the University of Texas bioterror lab.
Well, this is
March 25th, 2013.
This is what we started with today. U.S. probes University of Texas links to Chinese labs scrutinized over coronavirus, right? I mean, this is an article from a few months ago, but that's what we're getting at here, right? Is the University of Texas links to building the Wuhan lab.
Why would they cover it up? Why would Rand Paul not ask about that? Right? Rand Paul asked about Dr. Barrick, the humanized mice. The humanized mice are just going to tell you if it kills humans or not, right? The only reason you have a humanized mouse versus a regular mouse is you want to kill humans, not mice. If you have something that kills mice, you don't need to do a genetically modified mouse that looks like a human. You just kill the mice, right? If you want a serially passage, and all this testimony came out in Congress, by the way, Dr. May, right? He was saying, well, actually, there's no way possible that it would have these fern cleavage sites and then all of a sudden it would appear, and it wouldn't appear. There's only one genetic variation over a year. So it would take, we had 10,000 years of genetic variation in 1 year. And the only reason you could do it, then he says, the way it happened, the reason why he thinks it's a lab leak is because it was serially passaged. Wasn't that in a book called Royal Dutch Virus? Yeah, I think it was, and Native's Little Shop of Viruses. So he says the serial passaging thing. The reason why you would use a humanized mouse to serially passage is you want dead humanized mice because you're planning a bioweapon for humans, not for mice. You're not trying to make a better mouse trap. Literally, you're trying to make a better human trap. Or you're not trying to make a better mouse poison. You're trying to make a better human poison. You see what I mean? You're not, the reason why you need a Ralph Barrick humanized mouse is to kill humans.
Not for the mice. That's for sure.
Not for the mice, right? So it's obvious they're working on a bioweapon.
These are not murine humans. They're humanized mice. So,
right. So tell me about the Collaboration Center near San Antonio.
Well, you went back on screen. We should, we are at 3:00 here, not to be the party pooper, but
Oh, you got to go?
I got to go to work in an hour. I should be at work at 4:00 per se, but you also need
you were
lunch.
The one who started the show.
No, I love it. I'd go all day. I just, duty calls in about an hour. You haven't had a beverage. We didn't have any coffee or Diet Coke for you. But if you're going,
we didn't work yesterday. We only did 2 videos. I feel like we didn't work. We traveled yesterday in addition to working about 15 hours or about 12 hours.
Definitely, yeah. Hard-working weekends.
And we got home at about 6:00, and I watched the fireworks from Aaron's porch.
You went to the Toledo Mud Hens. You're Toledo Mud Hens' biggest fan now. I dragged you downtown to make sure.
Everybody thinks I was at the Toledo Mud Hens game for like 3 hours.
No. We just caught like 2 innings. I dropped you off, went to work, and picked you back up.
He says, "I'm going to give you enough time to do a 2-minute,
basically,
out." Right? I mean, so everybody thinks, "Oh, I'm going to the Toledo Mud Hens game and living it up." I didn't even go into the Toledo Mud Hens game. I didn't even. The band hadn't started. I hadn't had anything to eat or drink. I literally was there for only 2 minutes when the Seth Rich story broke, and it always is the confirmation. it's always that, well, yeah, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, they were working, and it did turn out that we tried to quash the investigation into the whole Seth Rich thing. And it did turn out Lisa Page knew and Strzok knew, and they were using Seth Rich to dangle emails over to Roger Stone and over to OK and Lansky. And the whole George Webb story is true, but it's 4th of July and you'll never see it. I'm
gonna play it though because it's fun, and
you'll
it's
never see it because it happened right before the fireworks, and you weren't watching George Webb.
Well, no, people 3,000 views on your Twitter here. It was a pretty good one. People like you at the games. I just like how you used the Toledo Mudhens were playing the Columbus Clippers, and so George had to use the.
I had to use the time. Let me out of the car. We were just about ready to go home. It was 7 o'clock. I said, Aaron, get me out of the car.
The Columbus Clippers are in town. Stroke and Lisa Page. That's what they do. They're Clippers. They clip things.
As soon as I saw the Clippers were there, I said, let me out of the car.
I think the Mudhens swept them, though. We love our minor league baseball here in Ohio.
They were down 4-3, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I hope I can flip this thing." So,
here we go.
I said to the guy, "Can I go in the gates just for a second to film?" And he goes, "Oh no, can you come over here where you can't see the gate?" And I'm like, "Come on, man, I'm promoting the Mudhens." And then we had somebody on the thing say, "Well, Toledo is Klinger." I said, "Get over the idea of Toledo being Klinger, right?"
That's the guy from MASH.
Yeah.
I never watched MASH. I'm a little too young for MASH, but
Toledo's Klinger, George. Toledo's Klinger. I'm like, no, think about it like Ohio. Think about it. George Bush, Robert Hughes, the Strongsville FBI raid, 6 U.S. presidents. Now we're going to all the presidential libraries.
Yeah.
Think about, I don't know, Ohio being a swing state, Michigan being a swing state. You can do it. Don't live in that world. Don't live in that trap MASH TV world. You get out of that and get into that's why we go to these places.
Yeah.
Aaron, that's why we go to these presidential libraries. We're going to go to all 6. Here we go.
Well, we'll play this, then we'll do the indie on the way out, and we'll say goodbye.
Okay, hello, everyone. George Webb reporting for Neighborhood News in beautiful Toledo, Ohio. Beyond me, you've got the Toledo Mudhens playing the Columbus Clippers. And, of course, over here, you've got a little park outside the ballpark here for festive. The band is about ready to start. And when you come to Ohio, you have to think about Ohio and Columbus. You have to think about the Columbus Clippers. And who were the real Columbus Clippers, the ones who were running the bioweapons for the Battelle Institute? That's going to be your Peter Strzok. That's going to be your Lisa Page. Those are the people that are running people through the Battelle Institute. Remember, Battelle is the one who manages Fort Detrick, where we had the lab leak. Remember, Battelle is the one who manages the various national laboratories where we had a lot of leaks. Remember, there's 11 total labs, not just one, not just Ralph Barrick's lab, involved in all the leaks and all this bioweapons program. And that is going to be the answer to the test. All the people that you've been presented, like Seth Rich and Carter Page and George Papadopoulos, are the bioweapons kids. They're not the spies. They're not the victims. They're not the heroes. They're actually all the people that were involved in bioweapons in Libya, in Syria, in Sudan, in Yemen, and for the Iran nuclear deal. I know how hard that is going to be for people to believe, but all I need is a few women, Krylova, Bogacheva. I bring them in, and I bring their bioweapon secrets as couriers into the United States. Paul Wella brings them into Novi, Michigan. I then move them around to different American universities. I put the bioweapons recipes on the DNC server, and guess what? Who is the guy with the DNC server backing that up to Pakistan? Terabytes going to Pakistan. Terabytes going to Pakistan. One Imran Awan. And we know they had a bioweapons program with DARPA here in the United States out to Desto in Pakistan. And that's the group that was working with the Chinese Wuhan Institute of Virology. That's going to be the story. That's going to be the answer to the test. Russia, bring it in and rinse it in the United States, collect a bunch of kickbacks into Adam Schiff and Peter Strzok, and then push it out through Pakistan to China.
See how we can use the Columbus Clippers to get the information out there.
Anything to get the story told. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of stuff going around about Leduc. And a lot of, LEDUC was the guy who was running the UTMB. And there's everybody saying Leduc. And Cindy is right that he did run the CDC before Redfield. And you might even want to pull Redfield up and see if LeDuc was the guy who ran the CDC right before Redfield. Because a lot of times they put these guys out to pasture and they're a part of the program. They got the Q level clearance.
You're saying was he the exact predecessor of the CDC right before Redfield?
Yeah. You know, if you go to the info
Right,
box,
yeah,
if you go to the info
who had their
box,
job before them,
right,
and
you
everything.
get predecessor always, right? And there's a lot of great metadata in the info box.
Absolutely.
I go to the info box first on metadata.
Preceded by Brenda Fitzgerald.
Okay, now do her predecessor. The other thing on the info box is you can keep hitting predecessor, and it'll
Sure.
take you back to LeDuc, right? And
Get all the way to George Washington. If we
well, you know, I think the first person with the CDC is the guy who did not the Tuskegee thing.
Keep getting on that wrong screen.
23, wasn't it? 23.
So you're saying
they brought you the Tuskegee Airmen because they didn't want to tell you about Tuskegee syphilis, right? They always do the cover story.
So
right?
Brenda Fitzgerald, she was preceded by Tom Frieden. Tom Frieden was preceded by Julie Gerbering. Julie Gerbering was preceded by Jeffrey Copeland. Jeffrey Copeland preceded by David Satcher. David Satcher preceded by Philip R. Lee. We're back in the 20th century now, so maybe we'll stop.
So where did LeDuc do LeDuc and CDC?
Okay,
I'm making you work. See, I'm showing
I
you.
love it. Hey, man,
I'm making you work like Andy works. You know.
I was gonna go get a PhD. I'm glad I didn't. This is much more intellectually stimulating. That's for sure.
Well, plus it's the answer to the most important problem in the world.
Yeah, I mean, we can do it. LeDuc, CDC, James LeDuc. So he's going to be Department of Microbiology, I guess. He's going to be here. He is in Galveston and everything. Right. Oh, I was shared screen while I was searching. Sorry, but there it is. Anyway, yeah, there's Mr. LeDuc. We'll zoom him in a little bit. James LeDuc, PhD, director of Galveston National Laboratory, one of the largest active biocontaminant facilities in the U.S. on a U.S. academic campus. Dr. LeDuc joined UTMB late 2006 from Centers of Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, where he was the influenza coordinator and director of the Division of Viral and Rickettsial Diseases. Rickettsial, like rickets. Rickettsial.
Well, everybody knows what rickets are caused by is a lack of vitamin D, right?
Or vegetables, right? You guys eat your vegetables so you don't get rickets?
No, rickets is a lack of vitamin D.
I don't know.
Drink your milk and eat your cheese for rickets. Yeah.
Oh, is that what my mom always said? Eat your vegetables because of something. It wasn't rickets. A scurvy. Maybe that one's for scurvy.
Scurvy
is
and
rickets.
Fruits.
Okay, well, that was close.
But vegetables is your B12.
Okay, well, he was in charge of the viral and rickettsial diseases here, James LeDuc at the CDC, and then he's been with Galveston Microbiology and Immunology and all that, or Galveston National Lab. So interesting guy here. Yeah,
talking about Ashley Babbitt. I tell you this, she lived in Michigan, and she had an email called Suicide Rabbit. Now, why do you have an email called Suicide Rabbit? That sounds like a person who knows they're the rabbit. You know, a rabbit is something that you put into a school play so that all the dogs will run after the rabbit. Everybody knows that, right? So a suicide rabbit is someone who looks like they get killed, right? So that everyone gets mad and then wants revenge. And you've got or you've got people in your, what do they call that when they're controlling the crowd? I can't remember the DHS has that program for all
the H sheep.
Yeah, the sheep program.
The HSEEP.
Where you have a whole bunch of people, and this happened. I watched this happen. I was right there on the steps, right? People coming out and go, I saw it with my own eyes. She got shot. She's dead. She's dead. These, and yelling at the police, we got to take this place. We should burn this place down. And I filmed half of them.
There was that one guy, you or Addie got him, and he had great teeth. I just remember seeing him. I'm like,
Addie
this guy's got perfect teeth, silky smooth skin and perfect white teeth. And I mean, he's just, right out of a movie
Babbitt
on the steps of the
and Robert Kovacs is talking about Babbitt and Rabbit and how it rhymes.
Absolutely.
So somebody with the name Babbitt could have chosen their name as, Suicide Rabbit. But they just covered up her whole Michigan history, which I thought was interesting. I think she was from the Jackson area. She was from over there by Ypsilanti.
Well, Ypsilanti, Jackson, yeah.
South of Ann Arbor. She was
Homeland-
south of Ann Arbor.
Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program. Again, with the five letters, right? We started, where were we earlier today, 2 hours ago? DARPA and Adept, from Adept to Haship. It must be 5 letters.
Everybody laughs at Task Force, right? Because she fell for the James Alefantis instead of the Tim Alefantis. But how close was she on this DARPA being the source of this whole thing and taking down the United States and would be the backbone and the false flag she called it a canary trap, but the false flag works hand in hand with the cover up with the lockdown. January 6th, the false flag works hand in hand with the coronavirus lockdown, because you want everyone in the country to say those are the bad people. We've got to stop extremism. We have to lock down. You want to get the rank and file of people saying we need to lock everybody down. And we need them to feel that so much that they say that they accuse people of killing their grandkids when they go visit their grandkids. Get daughters-in-law accusing the grandfather of killing their children, even though there's no mortality in children at all. But we've had this happen, believe me, where grandparents are accusing people of killing children, by, going out, and going to a ball game. Right. So, but that works hand in hand. That works hand in hand with the January 6th. So I think Task Force had that right as well. Right. That there would be some kind of in a Mavney situation. I'm talking about a Mavney situation now.
Military assets vitally needed.
If you're going to go to
insurrection,
if you're going to go to a spring, medical martial law, if you're going to go to a spring type lockdown, you have to have that one event where everybody can point to it and go, those are the bad people. And when I'm trying to keep everybody safe and not moving and reporting everyone, I have to feel good about that. And that event, January 6th, again, 4th Psych Ops, again, where's the report about Emily Rainey? Tucker, we gave you the information about Emily Rainey. We said exactly where the buses were in Pinehurst, right across the street from where Peter Strzok lives with AFGRO. Check it out.
Man, if we can get a picture of him on the golf course with Flynn, that'll be just hole in one.
Check out the 4 buses when they left the Pinehurst Golf Club there. Okay. I spent a lot of time in North Carolina researching this. I was bringing 120 people up to
DC.
To DC. Yeah. Now, did it stop in Fort Bragg? Did it stop on the way to Fort Bragg? Show me the blue-haired ladies. If it really was 120 blue-haired ladies, show them. Why would blue-haired ladies, care? I didn't do anything wrong when I went to DC. I was going to go to see if democracy still worked. That's like going to a baseball game. Why do you go to a baseball game? Because you want to burn down the stadium? No, because you want to see the baseball game. Right? Yep. You're not going to burn the stadium down. I went to the baseball game last night. Columbus Clippers. Was I trying to kill the Columbus Clippers? I didn't even go in the stadium. I was just trying to make a point about the real Clippers.
Looking for the ambiance. Just need a little ambiance.
Right? So they're trying to equate anybody going to a game with a terrorist. They're trying to say anybody who goes to a game is a terrorist. Right? That's what Strzok and Page are trying to say. Remember, Lisa Page's dad, Los Alamos. Works at Los Alamos. Don't you find that interesting? Nellie Orr, the person she works for, MITRE, placing people in federally funded research organizations. Don't you find that interesting? Their Farsi-speaking trucking company, the fact that they both speak Farsi, the fact that the Farsi-speaking trucking company still had 2 individuals that were living in Iran, that the whole Farsi-speaking trucking family lived in Iran. I had her tell me right to my face. Krupnik told me right to my face that they lived in Iran. Isn't that interesting? Doesn't that sound like an infiltration program to you? Sounds like an infiltration program to me. The Battelle Memorial Institute. Go over to Dayton and tell me if there's a Battelle Memorial Institute location. There is. We have our hand on the dark hand. We're on the money here. Aaron, play us out.
What do you want, Dayton or Indianapolis? We're going to play out with Dayton, Indianapolis, and then our jam.
Did we do Dayton already?
We didn't do the audio of you explaining the plays.
Do our jam in honor of Andy.
We're going to do our jam. We're going to do.
Just say one thing. I see Janet is in the chat and other people coming to tell Aaron who's coming, because we have, I think, 4.
We've definitely, people have reached out. Please do reach out to me. I won't say anyone's name specifically right now, just because I don't know that.
Well, the reason I want to say, I just want to say, look, occasionally you get a locker room fight. Okay, I'm not gonna go too much into it, but occasionally you get a locker room fight,
kibbutz fight.
Yeah, kibbutz fight. Okay, and somebody has to stay out, and somebody who lives here and works here every day, that's who wins in that one. So I just want to say that sometimes you get 2 guys on the team that can't get along, and one guy, works in one.
Come on, Shlomo, you keep busting the watermelons. You pick the watermelons out of the patch and you're dropping them. Nobody on the kibbutz is going to eat if you keep dropping the watermelons. I don't know if they have watermelons on kibbutzes, but whatever they. I understand. I think everybody gets it. We're all good.
Interesting about my brother. What? Somebody's saying something about my brother.
We'll go back and read it later, eh?
No. I just want to deal with this because
what now?
There are people who want me dead.
I think it was
the day I was born, so I can't control that. Okay, if you somehow can make the phone call and make that person not want me to be dead, and you can do that after 60 years, more power to you. Go get it. Go make that person not want me dead. But that person's wanted me dead from the day I was born. So if you have the magic formula, I've tried for 60 years. If you have the magic formula, you go do it. But I don't think you're going to find it. Aaron was asking me about it all week. I don't think you're going to find it.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't even know what was going on, and because I'm just so focused on the research. But I think it's somebody who maybe came in the chat and just whatever, man. It's above our pay grade here in the research community, honestly. You know what, man? Like, families
wants to get me arrested, and every time I ever go anywhere, they call all the authorities. I get 70 different law enforcement agencies copied on everything that I do with totally crazy things, right? Every time I meet with somebody like Jeff Prather, he sends all these things. So you go figure it out, okay? Don't try to have me figure it out online here. Somebody's saying here that Pinehurst number 2 is an open course.
I think the only reason I would have mentioned anything, Pinehurst. I mean, and we'll close it out just because I'm a family man.
Is that supposed to, Dave? Are you saying that Flynn could have just been playing the same 9 as?
Oh no, I think he was saying U.S. Open. It's a U.S. Open course, meaning like one of the top courses where the U.S. Opens played and stuff.
But that explains the picture of them playing golf together.
No, I don't think. He's just saying maybe he'll get a pick or whatever. But I mean, just whatever. I mean, family values, man. We're a family values community. I'm quite confident many of our people love family. And we don't like to hear whenever family's having a problem. But it's not our business, and it's not anything that we need to worry about. So, and if you're there and you're worried about it, whatever, I'm gonna not worry about it because. I just want all families to be loving and happy, and it's sad when they're not. And if it, just whatever, man. I mean, we're going to keep doing our research.
Aaron, the solution is you stay over at your house, and you stay over at your house.
It's all good, man.
You can't come and play together. You stay over at your house. You stay over at your house. And that's all you can do.
That's all you can do. So
it's
okay. Everybody's got to do what they can do each day. But I'm going to play us out with Indianapolis at this Sailors, and was the Sailors and something sad. I'm forgetting.
You know what it is a monument to? With Eli Lilly looking right down on it. And I had a lot of meetings with the
Soldiers and Sailors. That's right. The Soldiers and Sailors.
I had a lot of meetings, Aaron, looking right down on the Soldiers and Sailors monument from Eli Lilly. And you know what it looks like? And I hate to say this, it's a syringe. And it's almost a monument to sticking soldiers and sailors with syringes.
Well, if you're in one of those big buildings looking down,
if you're in Eli Lilly from where we were at the event, it looks like, hey, it's a syringe. And if you look at the history of Lilly, going all the way back to bioweapons of the Spanish-American War with quinine, it really goes back that far. And that's when they build the thing. That's when Lilly, is not the only person.
That's when they build the statue.
That's when they build the statue, is when they came up with quinine, and using the hypodermic needle, I think, comes out about that time, right? Maybe there wasn't hypodermic needle, but the needle as a delivery mechanism, as a vector, is about that time. I'm not saying that's why they built the monument.
No, of course.
But it is true that they do use soldiers and sailors for the vaccination testing.
Oh man,
since then.
Our poor soldiers, man, they're pincushions.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, it's like, Chris Hunter with his 8 vaccines that he doesn't, that they didn't know the names of, and they're mystery vaccines. I mean, just our poor veterans. I think a lot of veterans are starting to get pissed about it too. That like, hey, you've been just using us for testing and pincushioning rather than actually, defending the nation. And don't tell me that pincushioning me is how I'm going to keep the people safe. That's sort of where we're at. But this is a good monument, a good little Twitter video to end it with, and then we'll end it with our jam. It was 4th of July yesterday, and we love our country, and we love freedom and liberty, and we hope to preserve it as best we can in our community here. So I'm going to play us out with that. George, 3 hours, man. We just cranking away here.
Hey, go to Neighborhood News Studio and buy a book. This is a fantastic book. $30. You'll get the George Webb signature on there. It'll be worth $50 after they burn our studio down or whatever they're going to do, or $100.
Well, those Amazon ones are probably all quadrupled in value by now.
I saw somebody selling one for $1,000.
No way.
Yeah, $1,000. Now I don't know if that's just you can ask whatever price. Sure. You can ask whatever price you want.
Yeah. But definitely the Amazons. You won't get those anymore. So.
Yeah,
well, George, great show. Lunchtime for the crew here, and we will see you all tomorrow. Probably no show tonight. I think we'll just see you tomorrow on the road show. So, and if you want to come to town next week, we do have a place for everybody to stay, and we want you here to help print books
for campers and tents.
Campers, tents. There are beds.
Overflow. We have overflow.
There are beds too, beds with sheets and pillows and for anyone who wants
and a
them.
nice shower and a nice shower. So
we want you here. Come print books. Come hang out with us next week for sure. Yes.
Heart of Darkness. I hate to circle back. I hate to do a Spasaki or
sure. Yeah, we'll circle back. Yeah,
this Spasaki or whatever it is. I always have I get punched in the Dayton Flyer guy Kaminsky. Punch me.
When you're a center, you play by the rim, you get elbows all the time, I'm sure.
He punched me and he dislocated. He didn't punch me, he elbowed me. But
I'm sure you threw plenty of elbows in your day too, George.
It reminded me when we went by the Dayton Flyers.
Nobody's crying for you on that one.
No,
sympathy,
don't cry for me.
Certainly sympathy for you sometimes, not for elbows in the paint. But,
don't cry for me, Argentina. Cry for all the people that Kissinger's boy,
exactly.
buy a weapon. But here's the story. Kaminsky, he's bigger than me too. He's way bigger. He was 6'11". Anyway, but he hits me right here, and every once in a while, that hole, when you get talking and stuff,
the
little spittle.
The PS is hard, yeah.
And if I ever say Spasaki, I'm in danger of that Kaminsky smackage right there.
So wait, what are we circling back on though? On the Heart of Darkness, we're circling back.
We are.
Because
everyone's going to say this, George, you don't have the right meaning for, Who's Afraid of Virginia and China and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and Edward Albee, and you got it all wrong. And it was all about, that there was these Hays restrictions, right? Hays, Hays. There was these Hays restrictions. And you couldn't swear on television, and you couldn't smoke on television. You couldn't drink on television. That was added later, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You used to be able to smoke on television.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And you used to be able to drink on television.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they made it so that you'd see guys and you'd see them look like they're drinking, but for beer commercials.
FCC,
I remember
right? Thanks to the FCC.
Those came in, yeah. So they said, well, this play, and I think it played in London first. But Richard Burton was a known alcoholic, and he drinks throughout the play, and he screams all these obscenities throughout the play. And this was supposedly, because they filmed it in the movie, played in American movie theaters, this was going to be the last straw for the Hayes Amendment. The Hayes Amendment was the original guy way back with J. Edgar Hoover, and can't have anything that, where the bad guys win. And there was different restrictions. That's the movie adaptation. Okay. Don't make me defend the movie adaptation. I'm talking about the original play. Okay. With Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And I do believe it was about. I'm not going to say it was about accepting a strong woman like Taming of the Shrew. I'm not going to say that it's about accepting a strong woman like Taming of the Shrew. But I do think it was a childless couple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of the emergence. My mom was a strong, independent woman. Okay. So it was about the emergence of a strong, independent woman at a time, because she had played the queen of, she had played Cleopatra.
Okay.
And Fox, it had sank Fox, where Fox had to sell all their land in Century City. Okay. So the first woman in the 50s, this is before women's lib,
Okay.
that was accepted as a strong, independent woman was Elizabeth Taylor from Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
And they specifically cast Elizabeth Taylor in this movie because she was going to give the what for and argue openly with the husband. That had never really been shown before. Okay. So
who can really give it to him? Yeah, I get you.
So this had social overtones because this was going to start the breakup of the American family. This was the end of the woman, doting, saying, whatever you say, honey, you've come home late, 8 nights in a row, there's lipstick on your collar.
They just put up with anything, right? Yeah.
Your secretary is calling all times of day and night. Hey, what's going on at the office? That kind of thing. This was going to be the emergence of the I Am Woman movement, I think you'll find. Okay. Now that's an overlay. That's an overlay on the play. I think what you'll find the play is all about, and you're gonna see my interpretation here. It may be a little misguided, but it's actually about professional women, and this is a subtle change to, I Am Woman, Helen Gurley Brown, type of thing. I'll tell you my Helen Gurley Brown story sometime. But
we're not getting that one today.
No, we're not getting that one. But it's a good story. And anyway, but it's about a professional woman. Okay, Aaron?
Yeah, hold on. I'm getting the Virginia Woolf thing. We're not going to play the audio on this. We'll just do a little bit of visual here. But this is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Play a little bit without the audio. Yeah.
Right, I'm just going to let it play. You talk. I mean, it's Elizabeth Taylor.
See how she's arguing? Yeah, I'm telling you what, I'm free. I can go, make love to you, or I can go make love to the bioweapons guys. The Sonarevs had just moved in that that just wrote the
this is wild, man. This is actually this is fascinating. I'll bet Dr. Hamamoto he's probably got some great commentary on this. I'll bet he'd say this is societal impacts of this, would be great to ask him about. But yeah, Virginia Woolf, Virginia Banana, Virginia whoever, it's all part of the story. So
they're making fun of my pronunciation of specific because I have the Pasaki.
Oh, I left that on screen. My bad.
From the Jack.
That. Yeah,
he was making fun of me. But
all right. Well, we're gonna take this off screen, George. We're gonna play us out with a Twitter.
No, I'm in the middle of my point.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, go.
I'm in the middle of my point.
Okay, go.
Is it's the professional woman that when she comes home, she can have the office affair, right? Just like, I think, is she a psychologist in this? I can't remember. He's a writer. His character is sort of done on the who's the guy who was married to Marilyn Monroe, the writer guy, the playwright?
I don't know that one. No help for you on that one, although I'm sure somebody will in a second. But
yeah, he was a playwright. He wrote she married to Marilyn. And she was I thought she was a psychologist. But see, the love interest for her is George Segal or George Siegel.
Miller. Looks like Miller.
Henry Miller.
Miller.
Yep. Yeah. But there was all these Oconus lures in this movie. on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to get Robert Redford. I think Redford was too young. It wasn't Robert Redford, but it was like Montgomery Clift. If you look at the original cast, right, there are all these Oconus lures, and this is really the first Oconus lure film. Okay. And my point here is why the Virginia Wolf is so close to Virginia Benassi is because here's a Virginia Benassi who has been told by NATO Supreme Allied Command to shut up, just go ahead and, go do the collection, go get the bad shit, whatnot. Just keep doing what you're doing. Get your valises picked up by the Armed Diplomatic Security Services person. Make sure the NATO liaison to the SAT program so we can trace it. The biosurveillance. We're going to do Blackwater first and Chengdu. Then we're going to do, Wuhan 2 months later.
A lot of them are just following orders.
So just keep
follow
quiet.
orders, right?
It's classified.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up, right? Just salute, okay? Virginia, soldier, just salute. And what this may be, who knows if this will be the thing that inspires her. Who knows that she bought 4 books, guys. I don't know why, but she bought 4 books.
Well, there were a lot of people on that
Virginia
team in Geneva,
Benassi,
so maybe it's somebody else on the team in Geneva, but
she bought
Geneva,
4
Switzerland.
books. It's something resonated with Virginia Woolf, I think, and Virginia Benassi, because this is I'm pretty sure the story is about a professional woman, because see, women were entering the professional workforce, where they're pilots and astronauts and doctors and psychologists and so forth, right? For the first time in the 50s. The educational system, when women had been working in all these different factories and engineers and all this stuff, flying planes, a lot of the riveting and all the shipbuilding and all that was all Rosie the Riveter, right? So the women had a different set of expectations. The same thing, the civil rights movement, where black people who had been moved to Oakland for the shipbuilding and done all these incredible things during the war had a different set of expectations after World War II. Hey, I know we can do it. You just asked us to do it. And now, fast forward 10 years, where you're no longer Rosie the Riveter. Now you're Rosie the pilot, or you're Rosie the, psychologist, or you're Rosie the doctor, right? Or you're Rosie the virologist. And now you get the word from James Jones to shut up, right? Hey, we're doing these Uyghurs out here. Your job is to follow them around on the satellites. Okay. Maybe that's why the Who is afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Benassi.
Well,
yeah, sorry.
Maybe she is Virginia Woolf. Maybe she is the wolf that's coming to get these NATO guys, right? Because maybe they saw the order, What if Stavridis saw the order for 4 from Switzerland? That could be what writes our story today. And we can't send you the book. So order this for Virginia Woolf, really. Order this for Virginia Benassi. And if you're in Switzerland, or if you're in a neighboring country and you want to drive to Geneva and leave some on the doorstep of the Who, you're probably, or Gabby, Bill Gates' Gabby, they'll probably appreciate it. And with that,
we'll go.
We gotta go to the syringe. We gotta go to
we'll just
syringe for the soldiers.
And it's 4th of July. This is our 4th of July video. Happy 4th of July to everyone, and happy 245th birthday to America. And glad you guys rode along with us here today. And Arthur Miller, not Henry Miller.
Henry Miller's also a playwright. Arthur Miller wrote The Death of a Salesman.
It's always something, right? But
after I saw Death of a Salesman, I didn't want to be a salesman anymore. I said, "Can you put me in the technical area? Put me back in tech. I don't want to sell it."
Right on. Well, we will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you all for being here, and Research Roadshow out.
Okay, hello everyone. I am George Webb, and I'm here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and here is Aaron Adler.
Everybody, the Soldiers and this 1902 Soldiers and Sailors Monument.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And when I lived here, we didn't have the fountain. So they did a good job with the fountain. We didn't have street music either, which is kind of nice. And
smooth jazz.
So I always remember this as sort of Meridian Street, Meridian Square. That's what I called it. But Soldiers and Sailors was the name of it. We really want to say thank you to all the soldiers and sailors, past and present, even the ones in USS Indianapolis that Paul Allen saved their ship, and maybe he was doing some other things.
Yeah, we thought this might be a monument to the USS Indianapolis. No, it wasn't.
But Paul Allen was doing something else down there too with Bill Gates and the nuke. But anyway, that's another topic. But we're not going to go to Crane today, Crane Naval Warfare Center. We do think that's where they are doing the bio weapons as far as we're going to go another time. But today, July 4th, it's not open. The visitor center
closed. Yeah,
we're going to come back probably
next week. Yeah,
next week we'll come back and cover that story. We are going to cover the task force story. We are going to give her due. Now that we have the lockdown, we sort of predicted it. We sort of predicted what was, the pieces of the puzzle. Let's just work it out to see if she actually ends up being right. And this is where it all is made. Obviously, Edgewood Arsenal is another one where we interviewed that one guy from Edgewood Arsenal. There's definitely bioweapons there, and there's definitely bioweapons out at Lawrence Livermore. So we're not giving up on the story with Task Force. We're just picking it up another weekend to put these pieces together. Delphi probably as well, a little bit later. We'll get back to that.
We knew there were so many spots in Indiana.
Yeah.
George did.
I did. So I want to thank everybody. Have a great 4th of July. Aaron Adler.
Happy 245th birthday, America.
Yeah. All those Michiganders and Ohioans and Buckeyes and Hoosiers.
Tilt it up a little. Let them see the top of that thing. It's big.
Yeah.
It goes all the way up. Look how big that thing is.
Yeah,
So cool.
All right, everybody. Have a great 4th.
Okay, hold on. So someone's saying there, Matt and Matcha Benassi are in the chat, and they're saying, hey, this is getting personal. Maybe it's because of the mom, maybe it's because of the dad, but hey, this is getting really personal. You're dragging my mom into this, or you're dragging my dad into this. If it indeed is, Giuseppe is the dad, and then Virginia's the mom. You know what? You went after my Patreon, right? That I earned over 4 years. Okay. You could have just contacted me. I gave you over 70 opportunities to contact me. I reached out over 70 times. Okay. Instead of doing that, you did a kill job on me on CNN. And then I left you alone. I lost all my 4 years of work. Okay. When we're trying to track after these guys that did Libya, killed so many people in Libya, killed so many innocent people in Syria. Okay. Right. All I wanted to do was stop your dad. Okay. I just got through saying your mom was a victim. Okay. I just got through saying your mom was a victim.
I don't know if we know it's mom and dad.
Well, I'm not.
It's something's going on.
All of a sudden they're coming in because the mom. All right.
Maybe.
All right. And I don't know if the dad's related, but if it is, you made it personal. I was sitting in a restaurant in Luna Pier right before the election. I hadn't said your name in 5 months, and you decided before the election to say Elizabeth Warren's going to be coming after guys like this. And then you showed my picture with Section 230. And now we're going to make all Americans who are trying to do the right thing terrorists. Okay. If it's your mom, I just got done saying your mom is a victim here. Your mom may be the whistleblower. Your dad might be the whistleblower. Instead of coming on here and saying, just stop, why don't you tell them to start? Why don't you tell them to go forward and start to stop this thing? Okay. That's the thing that needs to stop. The Libyas are the thing that needs to stop, right? That's your boy that you're carrying the valises for. Stavridis, your boy that you're telling us to just stop. We're not allowed to just stop him. You're carrying his valise, right? All over from 2010 to 2012. That boy that you're carrying the valise for, you're telling me to just stop. What the hell about him? Right? These same mother fluckers are the ones that bombed Kosovo. I've interviewed people who were murdered in the family of people murdered in the bombing of Kosovo. We got people in the chat who know people who were murdered in Kosovo. Right? I got some asshole, right, out of Norfolk who wants to bioweapon my family, wants to Jonestown my family, wants to Waco my family, wants to flamethrower my family. He's 5 minutes away from Cobb Island, right? I got witnesses to that. But you didn't call him. You didn't call him and tell him to just stop. You didn't call him and tell him to stop. Why didn't you call Ken Hale, your buddy, over at NATO Act, who did the death threats? No, you went out on CNN and you said somehow I wished ill on you, which is a freaking lie. I never wished ill on you. I wanted to stop these people that did Libya, that did Kosovo, that people like DynCorp who were spraying people left and right. There's another just went. Okay. Why wasn't it just stop for them? Why didn't you tell Stavridis when you were carrying his valise around Libya? Right? Why didn't you tell him to just stop then? Why now? Why 10 years later? Why did you make up a story about me wishing ill on you and do a whole big thing with Donnie O'Sullivan about that? Why didn't you just tell him to stop? Because his lies about me started in 2017. Why didn't you tell him to stop? You made it personal. I was doing a story about the Chinese foreign ministry. I want the best for you. That's why I called you patient zero. I was trying to save your ass, and I was trying to go after the higher-ups that made you did what you do. So don't tell me to stop. It's the assholes that are telling you to do this shitty stuff that need to be stopped. And now you can play us out.